dabba-doo time, a dabba-doo time. We'll have a gay old time.
I will bet you are wondering what in HE double hockey sticks is happening right now. Same show, different song to start the show today. And, you know, I almost feel like I should apologize, so I will. I had the choice of starting this morning with Pink Floyd because it was on this day in 1988 that their album was played aboard. It was taken into space on cassette and played aboard the Soyuz shuttle. And so I could have picked a Floyd song. But I decided that it would be best to start with the theme to the Flintstones today, just in case all of these references that I make, okay, from time to time, the references that I make to the Grand Poobah are somehow lost on you. So in that vein, following the Flintstones cartoon theme song to start the show today, I would like to immediately begin the show by calling to order this official meeting of the Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes.
Barney, I hope you come home right after the lodge meeting tonight.
Well, it's our most important meeting. The Grand Poobah will be there to give us the exalted word.
The exalted word from the Grand Poobah himself. The Grand Poobah, leader of the Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes. And the title that I have frequently claimed will be the only title I would ever seek in an election. Should we ever get our collective stuff together in this region, amalgamate into one beautiful single tier of government, and at the same time create the leader of that one tier of government with the position of Grand Poobah, then I would put my name forward for political office. I bring this up this morning because our good friend Louisa D'Amato over at the Waterloo Region Record is saying the quiet parts out loud. There have been some rumblings of late that there may be changes on the way to the way we are governed here in the region of Waterloo, and that these changes could take effect before the next municipal election. As you know, because you are a loyal listener to this show and this station, we keep you informed. The next municipal election is in October of 2026. So we're 11-ish months away from voting in the next municipal election. And when we do that, it is entirely possible, if not probable, that we will not be voting for directly elected regional councillors. Rumblings out of Queen's Park that Ontario Premier Doug Ford would like to implement changes to regional structures in this province. According to Professor Emeritus of Political Science from the University of Waterloo, our good friend Bob Williams, he says, and I quote, "I have it on good authority that this will be implemented in York Region." What is that? A regional chair who is appointed by the province, not elected. No more directly elected regional councillors after the fall of 2026. And only mayors would sit on regional council. And their votes would be weighted so that if you represent a larger population, you would have more influence. Hello, Mayor Barry in Kitchener. You would wield the greatest influence on that regional council because Kitchener has the largest population of any municipality in the region, followed by Cambridge. And you know how it goes from there. That's what it would look like if Ontario Premier Doug Ford does hear what Bob Williams has on good authority he's planning on doing in York Region. And so, in a sense, just in one sense, that exalted position of Grand Poobah, the chair of a single-tier municipality, could be in place. But you see, here's the thing. And I think we're all going to agree on this. In fact, I know we're all going to agree on this, aren't we? The fact that the regional chair, not Grand Poobah, but close, it's just a difference of name. But the regional Grand Poobah would be appointed by the province instead of elected by us as citizens of the community where the chair and or grand poobah will operate. In other words, it's good to know Uncle Doug, isn't it? As in Ontario Premier Doug Ford. You get appointed, not elected. And we all recognize the undemocratic nature of that. That's not cool. Nobody's going to like it, nor should they like it. But here's another thing I just want to bring forward, because these rumblings have been around, and kudos to Louisa for putting them right on the front page of our local newspaper this morning. Because one, we ought to know about this, and two, we ought to start having a conversation about it because it's likely going to happen. No more regional government per se, an appointed chair, and then only the mayors sit around this table. No more elected regional councillors. Currently, we have 4 in Kitchener, 2 in Cambridge, 2 in Waterloo, and 1 in each of the townships. Well, but the townships are represented by the mayors, who would presumably still be on council. But at least 8 positions would no longer be elected positions on regional council. It'd make the ballot a whole lot simpler. Again, undemocratic to appoint a regional chair as opposed to electing a regional chair. But I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to tell you this for free, okay? Anybody who is upset about this beyond the appointment of a chair versus... Actually, no, it doesn't even matter. I'm going to leave that on the table too. Anybody who's upset about this at all, too bad. That's what I say. Tough noogies, because we have had the chance. Look, I've been on this show for 8 years plus now, and since day one, you know that I have been a proponent of amalgamation. I understand that amalgamation is a dirty word to a lot of people. I get it. But you know what? It makes sense. Because what doesn't make sense is a 2-tier municipal structure in this region. It just doesn't make any sense in the modern day. And please, let me not pat myself on the back too much here. It's not just me. Efforts to create a better, more effective, modern, efficient system of government in this community have been going on for decades. And what has happened? Every time somebody has the courage to step forward. My uncle was one of the people that had the courage to step forward and say, we need to do better here when it comes to municipal government. And what happened? Everybody scrambled. No. We got to protect our little fiefdoms here. We have to do that. We can't do it all. We change us? Actually change the way we do things around here? No. Why would we do that? Well, I'll tell you what. You didn't do that. And I've been saying this for so long. If we don't do it ourselves, at some point, somebody's going to come in and they're going to do it for us. So congratulations, Region of Waterloo, and everybody who resisted the idea. Look, it is undemocratic. I'll just be blunt. It sucks that we would have an appointed chair as opposed to an elected one. But Doug Ford, in essence, is doing the right thing politically for this community. And it's our own damn fault that we didn't do it our ding-dang selves before now. So this is what you get. I hope you like it. Take your medicine and suck it up, because we had the chance to create a system for ourselves. Now I'm all fired up. I didn't mean to get this fired up. I just wanted to make it clear. This is undemocratic to appoint a chair as opposed to elect a chair. But if you want to start dismantling directly elected regional councillors and reform the governance structure here, good. Because we need to. We have needed to for a long time, and we didn't do it. And I told you that if we don't do it, somebody's going to do it for us. And guess what? Somebody is now doing it for us. So you get what you get. You don't get upset because you had the chance. We all had the chance. Oh, I'm frustrated by this. I'm so frustrated. Let's go to the phones because they're open the minute we begin the show every day. And Kevin is with us. Good morning, Kevin.
Hello, hi, good morning, Mike. I'm 100% agree with you with regarding the amalgamation. I mean, I grew up in Toronto, but back in early 90s, I moved to the region here. And at one side, we're young people by 35.
Oh, Kevin, your phone, Kevin. I'm losing you, buddy.
Oh, I call back.
Okay, thank you. I want to hear from you. I really do. Please do call back because your phone was cutting out, and I want Toronto. You leave Toronto in the early 1990s, so you just kind of missed, right? The amalgamation there. I got to Toronto, my first little tour of duty, I call it, in the big city as a broadcaster, and it wasn't long after the amalgamation. And the former mayor of North York, good old Mel Lastman, became the mayor of the newly amalgamated Toronto. It didn't make no tinker's darn to me. I didn't know anything different. It was just Toronto at the time. But Etobicoke and North York, they all kind of held on to their own little previous domains, if you will. Jersey Bill is with us on the phone this morning. Hello, Billy.
Yeah. Hello. Let me give you a Jersey solution to this.
All right.
This is the way the different levels of government work in New Jersey. What you have the different municipalities, and they have their they run like school boards and things like that. But on the county level, what happens is you just have a board of chosen freeholders, and they may have
chosen, so elected or appointed, Billy.
They're elected.
Okay.
They're all elected.
Yep.
You may have 3, you may have 7. But a relatively small number. But the thing is that their scope is limited. On the county level, there are county roads. There usually is a county junior college, county parks. They may have a county police force. It's up to those freeholders to decide how much government they want to be in charge of. And, of course, they have a county courthouse. And that's it. They have county responsibilities, and that's what they're responsible for. And then everything else is maintained by the various towns, cities, and boroughs. And I think that if you had that strict delineation of responsibility rather than what seems to be this overlap here where the regional government and the municipal governments are essentially ruling over the same areas, that's, I think, what causes the confusion and what causes this duplication that you so much despise. And if they had a more delineated way of doing things, it would be a better way of having government.
That's an interesting point, Billy. And again, that would be something that we could have on our own figured out, right? What does this look like? What does make sense for Waterloo Region? And we never did it. We just dragged our feet and hit our heads and pretended that everything was just perfect. And now Doug Ford says, you know what? This regional structure is not perfect, and I'm going to change it for you. That's what you get. All right, Kevin, I promise I'm coming to you. And Tony, hang in there for just a sec, but I got to get your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning, the 26th of November. Number 1, say it ain't snow. Weather alerts issued yesterday for our region, forecasting from 30 to 50 centimeters of snow from its beginning tomorrow morning through Saturday. Strong winds also in the forecast, so watch for blowing snow. Number 2, a busy road remains closed this morning after a collision. Regional police still on scene of the crash on Cedar Creek Road that happened around 7 a.m. Cedar Creek closed between Northumberland and Trussler, and one person has been taken to hospital. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Prime Minister Mark Carney expected to announce new measures today to help Canada's steel sector. A government official says the federal Liberals plan to limit foreign steel imports and cut interprovincial rail freight rates in a bid to support the country's steel industry threatened by U.S. tariffs. As you know, U.S. President Donald Trump levied 50% tariffs on Canadian steel back in June. Number 4, the annual Uncle Hans food drive collected more than 10,000 pounds of food this year and just under $13,000 in cash. That translates to more than 34,000 meals provided by our food bank of Waterloo Region. The annual food collection effort during Oktoberfest has raised more than 1.4 million meals since its inception. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Trillium United Church in Preston is having its Christmas market and book sale this Saturday from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. This is one of those sales where people line up early every year to get their baked goods and take advantage of this book sale. If you buy 2 books, you get a third one for free. All proceeds from the market and bookstore go towards the work of the church in the community. Trillium United Church is on King Street in Preston. Again, the book sale and Christmas market, 8 till 1 on Saturday. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. All right, we have heard from Ontario Premier Doug Ford that he's got some plans for this region, including an appointed chair and no more directly elected councillors as of our next election 11 months away. I hate to say I told you so, but if we didn't do it ourselves, somebody was going to do it for us. I've got Kevin and Tony on the line coming right up, and if you want to weigh in, your voice always welcome on the most interactive show anywhere in Waterloo region. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Your municipal election ballot next October might be getting a little bit simpler. No directly elected regional councillors, perhaps. An appointed regional chair. Those are the rumblings. And a local professor of political science has it on good authority. This is going to be happening in York Region. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has two-tier regional government structures in his sights. He plans to come in, make some changes. Go back to the phones, hear from you on this. Tony is with us this morning. Hi, Tony.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there, living the dream.
Attaboy.
You know what? I agree with you. I don't agree with the appointment of the chair. I think that's wrong. I mean, we are a democratic society, and I think we should vote people in. But as far as getting rid of regional council, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a redundancy, and I think the only people that are going to be complaining about it are the people that are losing their jobs over it. I mean, they got some pretty cushy jobs, and I think that our mayors are just as qualified to make decisions they have been about what happens in our cities. So to have a regional council, I just think it's redundant, and I agree that it should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, Tony, well said about the redundancy of the second level. I know they overlook our regional government, different things in the community, but as Billy pointed out earlier when he called about this, there is a lot of overlap, or they kind of get in one another's way, right? And Tony's point about the cushy nature of the job, I've always said the best job in this region, political job, is regional councillor, because nobody ever calls you about anything, do they? Right? If your garbage doesn't get picked up or your bus doesn't show up or something, your first point of contact is usually your city councillor, but those are regional services, waste collection, transit. I don't think anybody calls their regional councillor to complain about something. They'll show up at regional council meetings and delegate and whatnot, but calling your regional councillor because you have a problem with something that is under the region's purview of issues to deal with, I'd be shocked if it happens. And one of those regional councillors is quoted in Louisa D'Amato's column today, Councillor Michael Harris, who is one of the 4 Kitchener reps on regional council. He says, this is the right thing. I don't even care if I lose my job because of it. It's the right thing to do. We could probably save $20 million just in efficiencies alone. And I'm not even fussed about the money. It just, we need something that makes more sense here, and we need to eliminate the Department of Redundancy department. You know what I'm saying? Paul is with us on the phone this morning too. Good morning, Paul.
Yabba dabba doo.
The Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes meeting is in session, good sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, this is Paul from Guelph, and I would vote for you to be the Grand Poobah just in case it gets a little more Guelph love. Not that you don't like the Guelph people, but I think that we're not exactly under your main umbrella, Mike. And I don't know if we would be included in this government change-up, but I look forward to you guys telling me what's going to happen. And I hope everybody gets a nice grilled cheese and tomato soup lunch today.
Why grilled cheese? I mean, that's a great idea, but why specifically?
That was what I ran home to for lunch in grade school and then watched the Flintstones in 1984.
I love it. That's fantastic. Great stuff, Paul.
All right. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks. You too. And you know what, Guelph, I do love you. I love you hard. Listen, I could envision a world where Guelph is part of the newly amalgamated community. I've always said Waterloo is the name to go with, but it fits. And I got to give you more love for their Guelph. Somebody get Cam Guthrie on the phone. Let's talk to him about the next Grand Poobah around here. the mayor of Guelph right now. He could sit on our regional council as an elected mayor. Why not? Let's do it. And lunchtime watching the Flintstones back in the day. George, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. I'd love to see it go back to Waterloo County where you don't have all the overlapping like we do now. The cities take care of the cities themselves and let the small townships, or whatever they're called, under the county. It would be wonderful.
I hear you hearkening back to an old day. Now, remember, too, though, some of those smaller communities, even if we do individualize more, it's going to be a little tougher to get services everywhere, right? We used to have Kitchener Transit and Cambridge. Now we have regional transit, right? Police is a regional service. Fire should be a regional service, too, for crying out loud here. I envision just one government to encompass us all, which at this point would be the regional level. I'd get rid of the cities beneath and create a council with representation, effective representation for every neighborhood, including you, Baden and Breslau and Ayr, etc. But that would be my vision here. Barbara, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. It sounds like an early Christmas present. My goodness, I would be... Mike, so as you know, my expertise is in sewers. I can tell you the waste and inefficiency between sewers and sewage treatment between the region of Waterloo and the local cities curls my hair. It is so egregious, the overlap, the tripping over each other, the ignoring each other, the fighting, the squabbling. It is unbelievable. It's so bad I wouldn't even know where to start. It is redundant. The planners at the region, the planners at the city, the region doesn't even have any sewer people because apparently sewage has nothing to do with sewage treatment plants. Nobody ever mentioned that what shows up at sewage treatment plants is sewage, but the cities are responsible for that. So heaven forbid the region would care about sewers. I mean, it is just, and it curls my hair. The taxpayers people are starving, and we got all this double counting, double weight. And you're right. We used to have like city of Kitchener regional counselors, and I would know who to call. And I know how government works, but I mean, I've never called a regional counselor. I'm just delighted. I could go on at length, Mike, but let me tell you, that would be the best thing. And I fully support your contention that we need one government and we could drop the number of staff by 1/3. I am telling you, I know from the inside, 1/3. The problem is the unions will kick up a fuss. Nobody can lose their job. The problem is people need to lose their jobs because there's way too many government employees sitting around doing nothing. And I know that because I work inside those places and I saw it. So hallelujah, Mike.
Thanks, Barbara. Great to hear from you today, an insider's perspective. Again, I'll just remind you, we could have figured out a made-in-Waterloo solution when these efforts began in earnest decades ago. We didn't. Now we're going to get what we get because Doug Ford has decided this is what's going to happen. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, outside the ongoing drama that is the budget in the city of Cambridge, what might be the talk of the town is the proposal to at least look into the idea of an Olympic-sized swimming pool for the city of Waterloo. That motion brought forward by Mayor Dorothy McCabe at a recent meeting of Waterloo Council, and she joins us on the show this morning to talk more about it. Mayor McCabe, good morning.
Mr. Farwell, good morning.
What inspired you to bring forward this motion? What need did you see in the community?
I see we're going to just dive right in.
Absolutely. There's no more time for small talk. You want to talk about amalgamation?
Dive right in. You know, I always want to make a splash, Mike.
We could talk about the new regional governance structure if you want to. I'm game for that. You know it.
I'm just trying to make puns. Okay. Anyway, well, where did this idea come from? Well, I've talked to many people and partners in the community around a number of things before I was in office, but certainly since my time in office. But it's a number of people, particularly from the swim community, from our local track community, etc., have met with me and other mayors and elected officials across Waterloo and Waterloo region, and said, there's just a real lack of elite level training facilities in Waterloo and Waterloo region. And so, thinking about what's our capital plan at the City of Waterloo, and we know that for years we've had in the books that we do need to build a West Side recreation facility. We know that we need to do that. And so, thinking of the partnerships, we've got the universities, we've got swim clubs, we've got this need. We know that the Laurier pool is on its end of life. And so we thought, if we're going to be building a West Side Recreation Center, why not take a look and really see what a competition level pool would look like, how much does it cost, what's required, and let's take a really good hard look at those numbers and see if it's something we can go ahead with. And so I've been really, surprised. As you said, it's been the talk of the town. The amount of people who have contacted us to say they love the idea. We had almost 2 hours of delegations on Mondays explaining in various ways why it's important for the artistic swimming, which is synchro, for diving, for competitive swimming. And then, of course, it would free up use of the other pools we have for more swimming lessons and recreation swimming and things like that.
I've heard estimates that would go even over $100 million for such a facility. How would we afford something like this?
Yeah, well, and I do want to be clear, and we were trying to be as clear as we could on Monday, that this isn't something that would impact our current tax levy, our property tax levy, or the 2026, and probably not even 2027. So part of the way we fund, infrastructure, the rec center, libraries, parks, et cetera, is with development charges. So that's something that we'll be taking a look at. We also will be talking to the provincial and federal governments. They've got new infrastructure programs. So, and often those infrastructure programs, in order to be eligible, you have to be shovel ready. So that's why we want to do the work now to see what the feasibility is, what the costs are, what's involved, and then if we decide, and there's a lot of consultation to happen between now and then, but we have to do that work and put a plan in place so that we then can go to the province or the federal government and say, here's our plan, here's how you can support us, here's the business case for it.
So what does the unanimous vote at council earlier this week trigger? Are we looking at a feasibility study now?
Yeah, well, we'll as I said, we're already in the process of looking at what a recreation center on the west side looks like. So it will instruct staff to include, getting the numbers together. For a competition level pool. So that will be added to the work and the research that they have to do. I will say that in conversations I've had with Swim Ontario, with their CEO, what they have said too is that pools, yes, there's one of the estimates said it's 100 million, but they said there's a different way to build them now, like modular pools that are permanent, but also cost significantly less. So, there's always new technologies coming on the market in different sectors. So that's something that, fingers crossed, we could, maybe that's an option. So that's some of the work they're going to do to just make sure that we fully understand this before we fully commit to it.
Absent a facility like this, Mayor McCabe, or specifically a pool, a competition-sized pool, what are we missing out on here in the city or the region?
Well, a number of things. Our recreation programs and our swim programs are full. They're maxed to the capacity. And I'm not just talking in Waterloo, this is across the region. One of the delegates from the Artistic Swimming Club said that they train out of 4 different facilities, one in Cambridge, one in Waterloo, one in Elmira, and I think also one in Kitchener. So they're constantly, whether it's recreation or competition or elite level, they're looking for places to train. We're also, what the clubs told us is they have no way to fundraise, and because usually fundraising involves hosting meets. And they have to actually go to like Windsor or another club like in Toronto to actually raise money, like to host a meet, because we don't have the capability to host a swim meet here. So we're missing out on, I mean, those generate a lot of money, quite frankly, when tournaments and swim meets and competitions come into a community. So we're leaving a lot of economic development opportunity on the table, for hotels, restaurants, etc. Like when people sport hosting is a significant economic driver in our community, and one of the only things we can't host right now is our swim meets.
What are next steps?
Well, so staff will start to really dig into this. We, of course, are working with Explore Waterloo Region as well, and continue to talk to the swim clubs and understand fully what their needs are. And as I said, really look at what are the options for the different types of pools that are possible, like, our modular pool is possible. We also need land, quite frankly. As I said, we've been working on a West Side Recreation Center. But yeah, we have to find the land for that as well. So that's a big next step.
Mayor McCabe, appreciate your time on the show. As always, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Can I just do a quick plug? I was at this morning the Maycourt Club of Kitchener-Waterloo's 34th annual Christmas Dreams. It launched again today. There's some fantastic prizes. Go to their website, buy tickets. It's set up at Conestoga Mall, and they raise the money that they raise goes to Kids Ability, to the hospital's neonatal clinic, and to Make-A-Wish, and as well to Maycourt. So really great place to donate if you have the ability to, and some great prizes to be won.
I'm glad you said that, because we had a couple of lovely ladies from the Maycourt Club on the show on Monday to talk about it. Today is launch day, so good on you for being there and for the reminder. Yeah. We will definitely, it's so much fun, and it's a great, they've raised over $2 million over the years.
Yeah,
so
incredible.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Mayor McCabe, thanks again.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe joining us to talk about pool plans in Waterloo. Just quickly again on that plug that Mayor McCabe gave, the Maycourt Club of KW has for decades now been holding this annual Christmas Dreams raffle. You buy the raffle tickets and you put them in the box for the prize that you would most like to win. All money raised, helping out, as you heard Mayor McCabe say, a number of local initiatives, including the neonatal intensive care unit at Waterloo Region Hospital Network, Kids Ability, and more. It really is great. It's set up at Conestoga Mall in the open area by winners. Impossible to miss. Dozens of prizes available. And as Mayor McCabe said, if you can, great idea to buy some raffle tickets. And then on Saturday, December the 6th, which, believe it or not, is a week Saturday. Like this Saturday, we're still in November. The following Saturday will be December the 6th. And I'll be there with the Maycourt Club of KW to make the draws of those winning numbers. And we all gather around, have a good old time. And this is just a great way to raise some money. $2.5 million plus they've raised since their inception, the Maycourt Club of KW. So glad Mayor McCabe gave us a reminder on that. Another brief aside, but getting closer to this pool idea that Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe has brought forward, supported unanimously the motion at council earlier this week. I grew up in a world where swimming lessons were something that we did. I know lots of kids still do that today, but I bring that up because I feel like I could swim to some degree. I mean, I know a few strokes, I can tread water, all those different things. So this past summer, my buddy Daryl and I are on our annual motorcycle trip, and I literally jumped in the lake, which is one of my favorite ways. Like I would much rather be in an open body of water. But it's been a while, and it's not that I couldn't swim. Clearly, I'm still here. Dang, is that hard work. You swimmers out there, it made me think of the scene in Rocky 3. Do you remember Rocky 3? I know, I'm going all pop culture on you now, but somebody was asked, I think it was Paulie was asked, can Rocky swim? He says, with a name like Rock? But his trainer, which was Apollo Creed at the time, said, you'll learn to use muscles you didn't even know you had. I don't know what muscles I was trying to call on that I clearly do not have when I jumped in that lake up near North Bay this summer. But my goodness gracious, I was exhausted. I think I took 4 or 5 strokes away from the dock, and then I came right back to the dock and just hung out there because I can't do it anymore. Holy Hannah. To the matter at hand, I have long believed this. Cities are the links in the chain that connects our country. Right? So we talk about nation-building projects a lot lately. And I'm here to tell Prime Minister Carney that if you want to build a nation, you better have solid cities beneath it. Because if the cities are crumbling, you've got no foundation for your nation. And you can't build anything on that crumbling foundation. So, yes, we need to have some nice things. We need to have some amenities in our community. Our good friend Peter Baxter, who was the former athletic director at Wilfrid Laurier University and was there for many, many years, was at Waterloo Council's meeting earlier this week saying, listen, when you're doing the pool, how about you think of a complementary track facility in the same West Side recreation complex that you're thinking about? Because track and field has long felt underserved in our community. We know swimming has, and I know swimming ain't hockey, swimming ain't soccer, right? Which are sports with far greater participation. But if we don't have these things, we are a lesser community as a result. My biggest worry, as always, is going to be the bottom line. Remember, the city of Waterloo is not even yet out from under the Rim Park financing debt. That won't be off the books until 2030. And it's lovely to say that we will seek support from upper levels of government for this, the province and the feds, but all that means is the money is coming out of a different one of your pockets because provincial and federal tax money is still your money. I like the idea. I want to support our swim community here. And again, I'll remind you, we have to have some nice things, don't we? These are really trying times economically. We'll keep an ear on this for sure. But as we're at this stage, in the proposal stage of an Olympic-sized, competition-sized swimming pool for Waterloo, and more broadly, the region and the sports tourism that could bring with it. What do you think of the idea? Is this a need or an unnecessary want? Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Those generate a lot of money, quite frankly, when tournaments and swim meets and competitions come into a community. So we're leaving a lot of economic development opportunity on the table, for hotels, restaurants, etc. Like when sport hosting is a significant economic driver in our community. And one of the only things we can't host right now is our swim meets.
And when those people stay in the hotels, let's make sure we're collecting that MAT tax, right? The municipal accommodation tax that we can use for other projects in the community. That's Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe joining us this morning to talk about her pool proposal, supported unanimously by Waterloo Council at its meeting earlier this week. We are lacking in that kind of athletic facility in this community. Wilfrid Laurier University, the only facility where such a pool exists, and it is aging. I remember when this came up as a conversation in the community years ago, because it was basically, we need to do some serious repairs here at Laurier or else. Like, we're going to be completely out of competition-sized swimming. And I know that even since that conversation, and that pool remains open, but competitive swimmers are traveling to Guelph, for example, to get the water that they need to do the things that they do. So maybe we do need something in this region and think longer term about the sports tourism that could come with it, etc. But it ain't gonna come cheap. And in these times, when everybody is squeezing nickels as much as they are, it's a big ask. And it's not like we're spending the money tomorrow either. But your thoughts on a competition-sized swimming pool for the region of Waterloo. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Walter, good morning.
How you doing today there, Browner?
Browner? What does that mean?
Oh, well, you're sucking up to
like over to the city of Guelph there this morning a little bit. I heard you. That's okay, Mike.
You don't want me to suck?
Anyway.
You're from Guelph. I thought you would want me to suck up to Guelph.
Hey, it's your morals, buddy. You can do with them what you want. Hey, as far as the pool
I'm
goes...
so confused. Yes. As far as the pool goes.
It wouldn't be the first time, Mike, that you're confused.
You are so right about that.
So anyways, about the pool, I'm 100% in favor of it, and I'll tell you why. Because as far as I'm concerned, swimming is a must in this country. With the amount of water that we have in this country, my mother was a marathon swimmer when I was a kid. And when we went up north and she'd go out for a swim, like everybody thought you just go out in the lake there or whatever, right? No, she swims around the perimeter of the lake. That was her swim. So all of us kids, we actually knew how to swim well. And it just breaks my heart every summer when I hear of kids, that are drowning in open water, pools, like you name it. And I think that it should be a condition of youth. Like my kids, they wanted to do like soccer and baseball. No. The first thing you're going to learn how to do is swim. After that, I don't care what you do. And I think it's imperative in this country that, that is a necessity.
Listen, I hear you. And we're mixing metaphors a little bit here because we can get those swimming lessons in the existing pools. What we're talking about here, though, is that competition-sized pool. You want the next Summer McIntosh? You want the next Penny Oleksiak? Yeah, I brought that up. It's not that she took a banned substance. It's just that she didn't report her accurate whereabouts so that a random drug test could happen if the swimming committee or commission wanted it to happen. It's bizarre. It's like an administrative error. She said she was in California when she wasn't or something like. I don't think she was dodging the test. I think she was just kind of lax or lazy in keeping up with all of the rules. Very strange. But anyway, if we want that next athlete, then they're going to need an appropriate sized pool to train in, to perform in when it comes to synchro, for example, train and perform. So I think of this in a United States context, if you'll forgive me, but you know how seriously they take their athletic accomplishments, right? I don't think we do it take it as seriously here, and I think we would do well to take it more seriously. There's something to be said for that. There's a nation's pride that comes on the line every 2 or 4 years, right? Summer games to winter games, etc. And when the winter games come around, we better have our pride on the line. Better we not? Anyway, I hear where you're coming from, Walter. I'm still confused, though, as to why. Like, I'm born and raised, and Kitchener will always be my first love. Always. And I will always defend the region of Waterloo and build it up as what I believe to be the best damn community in this country to live in. But it doesn't mean I don't like other places. And I really do like Guelph. I like it a lot. I like Regina. I don't know why, but I do. So, I don't know. That's something wrong with my morals. I didn't know that was a geography crime. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Wednesday morning at this time, we check in with friends in Ottawa who own and operate the Blacklocks Reporter. It is a subscription-based media outlet owned and operated by its reporters. Blacklocks.ca is the site I encourage you to visit because you'll really appreciate and enjoy the information you get there. Well, enjoyment is in the eye or ear of the beholder, but it's important stuff. And the managing editor there at the Blacklocks Reporter, Tom Korski, he joins us to make us mad every Wednesday morning at this time.
Morning.
Good morning, Tom. Let's start with the CEO of Brookfield, if we can, because he's been appearing before a Commons committee. What have we been learning from him?
Well, the Commons Ethics Committee has been keenly interested in the Prime Minister's personal fortune, which we know is extensive. His stock holdings run to 16 pages. He's got the biggest stock portfolio of any Prime Minister we've ever had. It's in a blind trust, air quotes, blind trust, but MPs have pointed out that certainly Mark Carney knew what he put into the blind trust scant weeks ago after becoming Liberal Party leader. And now the executive for Brookfield said the company owns shares or outright has ownership of some 2,000 companies. And so that when the portfolio increases, obviously, Mr. Carney's personal fortune increases. Mike, Conservative and Bloc Québécois MPs have been hot on this. There's a lot of discomfort for members of the government caucus who've called it a witch hunt and why are you knocking down a success story? But the fact remains that the Prime Minister cannot turn a wheel without hitting a conflict of interest. An example, they have a keen focus on modular nuclear reactors for use in especially, Arctic communities that are still using diesel generators under their climate program. Problem, those small modular nuclear reactors do not exist commercially. They have never been proven. And the company in Canada that got a federal subsidy from the Department of Industry, Westinghouse, to build one, you'll never guess who's a shareholder in Westinghouse. Prime Minister of Canada. This is the point that MPs are making. This is easily solved, Mike. He can just sell the stocks, and he refuses to.
The personal fortune continues to grow.
Exactly. This is the point that is made. So there was an MP, for instance, Conservative MP Jacques Gordy, he was sat there reading in the budget, and Ethics Committee said to the Brookfield executive, do you have investments in modular housing? Oh, considerably. Do you have any investments in railways? So cargo rail, we sure do. Clean energy, they have a huge clean energy portfolio that, by the way, is in a trust fund, an investment fund that's headquartered in Bermuda. What about data storage? Oh, we're big in data storage. This is all budget material. And MPs have said, you're going to have to sell the stock. Mike, can we speak candidly? The Prime Minister's going to have to sell the stock. Everybody knows it. I don't know why he's dragging us out and making it as painful as possible.
Agree completely. And then this is all over with. And by the way, you've got all those millions then when you sell the stock, and I think you'll be just fine, won't you?
Oh, he's a multimillionaire. We know through United States U.S. Security Exchange filings, where they are much more forthcoming than in Canada, that his stock options, just from Brookfield alone, run from 6 to 9 million Canadian. And we know that because he held the stock options up until January 16th. That's not ancient history. That's when he left the chairmanship of the company to seek the Liberal Party leadership. The man's a multimillionaire, and we're all capitalists, Mike. No one begrudges him. No one's a Bolshevik. That's good for you. But you got a full-time job now, and it's not chair of Brookfield.
Indeed, it is not. Okay, I want to talk about the Canada Infrastructure Bank if we can, Tom, because if the Canada Infrastructure Bank is self-sustaining, why are we giving it more taxpayer money?
That's a really good question. MPs have asked that exactly question, and it is sort of an enigma. The bank is a taxpayer-owned bank. They act like they're a private bank, but they're not, and Parliament set them up. This would be 8 years ago with $35 billion. And the deal was they're going to finance public works and get private investment. So this was supposed to be a job creation and a private investment deal. How did it work out? Well, the Commons Transport Committee, including Liberal members, once recommended the Cabinet privatize it. They haven't spent half the endowment they got from Parliament. And you're right, their CEO, oh, by the way, $679,000 a year pays the CEO. That's the life, Mike. You should have been a banker, an infrastructure banker, $679,000 a year. He testified we're self-financing as of last year. He told this to the Senate National Finance Committee, and yet there's a line item in the omnibus budget bill that we are increasing at taxpayers' charge the equity in the infrastructure bank to $45 billion, a 29% increase. So apparently they're not self-sustaining. Apparently they're taxpayer-sustained.
Maybe they just have a different definition of self-sustaining, Tom.
It's the same, only different. Exactly.
We talk a lot generally about so-called corporate welfare, and under the microscope, most recently, of course, investments in automotive, battery plants, etc. Here in southwestern Ontario, there's the big deal with Stellantis. And I'm just wondering, of that $15 billion subsidy, how much of the fine print we read?
MPs have been after that for months, Mike, and the Department of Industry yesterday finally told Commons Committee, Government Operations Committee, drop dead. We're not going to show you the fine print. And there was a rather unnerving disclosure. Forgive me. The Deputy Minister of Industry said the minister, Melanie Joly, herself had not read the contract. Mike, you talk to anybody who runs anything, a farm, a small business, a ranch, a union local, a minor hockey club. What do they do all day but solve problems? Breakfast, lunch, and supper. They're just born that way, the ones who are good at it. And we have cabinet ministers whose job is to be accountable in the Commons question period every day the House is in session, accountable to the taxpayers. And you have ministers, and this is in particular, I don't want to use rough language, from the Trudeau era, who seem to see their job as putting on the appropriate outfit and reading a teleprompter with enthusiasm, like they were a motivational speaker at an airport hotel seminar. You cannot be the Minister of Industry and not care about a $15 billion deal. And that's what we're stuck with. It was extraordinary.
That's an excellent analogy, the motivational speaker right there, because basically it's just make it palatable to the public. Details? We don't need any details.
And the people who have read the contract, no one knows who they are, aren't accountable to taxpayers. No one even knows their names, and they will never be compelled to stand there and take questions from your representative, your member of parliament, the only friend you have in this town. That's unacceptable. I don't know how these cabinet ministers thought they could get away with it. But when you now you have the deputy saying Stellantis doesn't want all those terms disclosed. Our hands are tied. Are you kidding me? Is this like the town council in Meadow Lake? $15 billion? Wow.
Okay, I cannot let today's conversation end without getting the background on this. Background I use deliberately, Tom, because, listen, the government is in the business of making announcements, showing us that in this case, it's building Canada homes, right? Those are the words on the podium that is in front of Prime Minister Mark Carney. Build Canada homes. And right behind him, it's happening, right? It was actually happening. There was a home being built in behind him.
Brutal. The housing department admits it was all fake. They actually faked a construction site for the Prime Minister's announcement. They spent over $32,000 on labor. They had a crew put up a fake backdrop. They had the Prime Minister tour the fake construction site. The minute the TV cameras left, they disassembled fake prefabricated homes. But, Mike, it is a metaphor because their housing targets are fake. Minimum affordability startups, $500,000 a year. They're nowhere close. They say they won't hit it in a decade.
So we spend more than $32,000 for a fake backdrop.
It looked pretty on TV, though, mission accomplished.
We could take a little bit out of those stock options at Brookfield. It's a small rounding error.
Honestly.
Tom, I always enjoy, I do, these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski is the managing editor at the Blacklocks Reporter. Check it out, blacklocks.ca. I think you'll like what you find. You can pick up a subscription right there. They do work. It's the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom in the nation's capital doing this kind of work. It's a little bit different, but boy, oh boy, do they invest. They roll up their sleeves and get in, and then you can find out about the $32,000 fake construction site just to look good on a TV backdrop. And then they take it all away. But what would the announcement have been without that beautiful, albeit fake, backdrop when you're trying to promote the building of homes? Tom Korski with the Blacklocks Reporter joins us every Wednesday morning at 10 here on the Mike Farwell Show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, are you worried at all that artificial intelligence is about to replace you and the job you do. We'll talk about it next on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It seems we can hardly go a day without hearing one thing or another about AI, artificial intelligence. It's coming for your job, don't you know? I'm sure some feel that way. But how many are feeling that way? And is it true that automation is going to kill jobs in this country, around this world? Scott Sheeman is a professor in the Department of Sociology at the University of Toronto and Canada Research Chair in Social Contexts of Health. Joins us to talk more about it. Scott, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to get you on the show to talk about something that I know we're all talking about, wondering about a little bit. And you, through a survey, tried to find out how we as workers in this country are feeling about the intrusion of, presence of, or perhaps implementation of AI. What did you learn through the survey?
Yeah, I mean, you teed it up well with one of the things we started to notice was all the sensational headlines that seem to be, like white collar bloodbath and job apocalypse. And I just started to think, I study what workers think and feel about work. And I'm like, okay, if you're reading these headlines, you might be pretty terrified. So we decided to field, a nationally representative survey, one of our ongoing that we've been doing since 2019 of Canadian workers, broadly representative of the working population. And we just decided to actually go ahead and present one of these dramatic headlines made by Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, who basically said in an Axios interview that, AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20% in the next 1 to 5 years. That sounds scary. We wanted to just ask Canadians what they felt about it, how likely they thought it was, and then do some follow-up in depth to get beyond beyond the percentages and the statistics to what are people thinking and feeling. And so your listeners can find that on theconversation.com. We got a lot of rich detail.
When it comes to the white-collar workforce in particular, do you find those workers through your survey to be more concerned than blue-collar or trades workers?
Yeah, there is a slightly higher level of concern, and that is consistent with the headlines, right? A lot of the headlines are literally saying like white-collar jobs, and a lot of them are also adding this whole entry level. So it's that, getting that first, job or kind of building up from the lower levels or entry level up to the higher levels. And so that's also something that's going to take a toll on younger workers, that kind of how do you get the foot in the door and build up that experience? So yeah, in this case, unlike in the past, 70s and way back when blue collar workers were much more under threat, the threat seems to be much more directed towards certain kinds of white collar jobs. Whether they'll be fully replaced or just simply modified is still an open question. But like you said in your intro, it does seem like there's a daily story about how, it's going to be pretty dismal.
So what is this telling us? What you've learned through this survey about, various workers in various demographics responding to the existence even of artificial intelligence. What is this telling us about Canadian workers today, the workforce in this country?
I think one of the big things that it reveals is more of what we're calling kind of a moral economy, and that is, what do companies or employers really owe their employees? I mean, a lot of the talk is just about simple displacement, but a lot of Canadians are sort of struggling with both pessimistic outlooks that kind of mirror some of the sensational headlines, but then a significant minority, are expressing optimism about, there's been technology in the past. We've always evolved and adapted. And so I'd say those are the two contrasting themes. But I think right now, it seems like a lot of the narrative, and I think it ties into inequality with some of these companies just making so much money, where people are sort of struggling with this. Corporate greed and so forth really just comes up a lot when people are thinking about whether it's just, you could replace a worker, but should you? And if the bottom line is just simply about making money, then I think that's going to cause some real broad societal and policy making kinds of challenges for us.
That's an excellent question. You could replace a worker, but should you? And you mentioned earlier, Scott, that you began this work back in 2019, so 6 years ago now, and I'm sure because we haven't seen the full implementation of AI yet and these intrusions into our workforce through automation, et cetera. Where are you going from here? Like what was it that first started this back in 2019 and where are you taking it next?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in 2019, we were just interested in getting broad snapshots of the working population. We call it the quality of work and economic life study in Canada. And so we, I guess it was fortunate for us, at least, that we were in the field before the pandemic. And then we've tracked workers throughout the pandemic, throughout all these tariff, ups and downs with the tariffs. And now, in 2023, we started noticing the trickle of AI stories, ChatGPT. And so we started to implement. It's kind of fascinating, right? Like as we're in the field, we're seeing these massive changes. So we're going to continue to follow these workers and add new ones to the study all the way to 2030. So we'll have this nice snapshot of, I don't know if it's nice, but we'll have this, we'll have this detail. Well, and it's kind of it's turning into kind of a bit of a historic snapshot of what's really happening for Canadians and others, of course. But so that's where we're headed with this. And yeah, that question about like, what should we do? What should employers do is really one that we're kind of pivoting towards. I think, again, we call it moral economy, which is, it's just not about the money. It's just not about profit, but what is it about replacing people with machines or automation? And that question about what we should do is a really powerful one. I mean, I've asked, some people say, well, we really don't need to meet in person. We can just work from home. And I've sort of flipped that around. Well, we might not need to meet in person, but should we meet in person, right? Like what's lost when we're not doing these things? So that's kind of where we're headed with this study. I think it'll be really fascinating, just even in the next year, to see what happens.
It already is from where I'm sitting. It's super research, and really appreciate you making time for the show today to talk about it, Scott. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Scott Scheiman is a professor of sociology and a Canada Research Chair at the University of Toronto. Recent piece, and you heard Scott allude to it, at theconversation.com. Will AI automation really kill jobs? A new survey finds Canadian workers are split on the answer. And it probably depends on how many of those really sensational headlines that you've read, white collar bloodbath, that sort of idea. There's no question that it's here. It's already impacting the workforce. And there's no doubt that it will impact it even more in the days, and I will use that specifically as opposed to say the years to come, because AI is moving so fast. And it really is disrupting the workplace as we know it. Really interesting times right now. The time for me is to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then in the next 30 minutes, a winter market just in time with the weather coming in Elmira this weekend. And on stage at a theater in Cambridge, the Hogwarts story that you aren't as familiar with. That's coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, you Cambridge community players, you've got me very, very interested. A new show, the curtain for which rises on Thursday night with an evening performance, tells the story. Well, let me just read this little description for you. For 7 years, a certain boy wizard went to a certain wizard school and conquered evil. This, however, is not his story. This is the story of the Puffs, who just happened to be there too. A tale for anyone who has never been destined to save the world. So what the heck else was going on at Hogwarts while some little boy wizard was there? We will find out more about this show as we are joined this morning by the director of Puffs. Jennifer Mountain is with us. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
And along with Jennifer, we have Dominic Casto on the show. He is one of the actors in the show. Dominic, good morning.
Good morning.
Jennifer, if I could start with you, who are the Puffs?
So the Puffs are the students of the certain magic school that are in the Puff House, which most commonly is known as Hufflepuff, but due to copyright, we are not allowed to refer to them as that. So they are referred to as the Puffs, which tend to be the students that are not necessarily the smartest, not necessarily the bravest, and they're just genuine and kind and honest, and they're just very, very good students that are trying to work their way to learning magic over the 7 years. It follows the same storyline-ish. There are some familiar characters that appear in the story as well, but the main focus is a vantage point of the story from the view of the Puffs house.
I'm glad that you made reference to the copyright that perhaps exists here. I wondered how much I might have stepped over lines because you're very, it's made very clear in the description, a certain boy wizard and a certain wizard school. So I think we can all intuitively understand that. But given, Jennifer, that the story that you are telling a different part of is so well known that we, just by saying certain boy wizard and certain wizard school, we know exactly what it is we're talking about. What is it like as a director taking on the challenge of a story like this that so many hold so near and dear?
It has been a lot of fun. The interesting part about Puffs is that it is a spoof telling of the story. So not only is it from a different vantage point that we all know, it is done in a highly comedic fashion. So it is a little bit making fun of the original story. There's a lot of parody. There's a lot of similarities where they've changed the names of the characters. They've changed the names of the spells, but they're very, very close to the very well-known characters and spells of the story.
Dominic, along those same lines, I wonder if you, as a performer in a show like this, have to unlearn some things, even if you're maybe like me and have just a cursory knowledge of that original story. Like, do you have to set that aside to come into something like this, lest it influence your performance in any way?
I don't think you necessarily have to change your performance, but you definitely have to watch what you say. Given the amount of improv that you're going to be doing in the show, and a lot of people will put in throwaway lines, and especially my role has been given a lot of freedom, I kind of have to be careful sometimes of what I'm saying in terms of storylines around that franchise. But aside from that, there hasn't really been anything that's weakened the performances or done anything like that. Tell me a little more about that freedom that you're given in this role and what it's like having that freedom on stage. I think that it's the most fun I've ever had on the stage because I'm able to do so much with, I think, a really powerful kind of story behind it, because everybody knows this story, everybody knows what's going on. So you can wink, you can nudge a little bit, but also I can throw in a lot of pieces of my personality into it. The show is already a very chaotic melange of just ideas and stories, but I'm able to also import a lot of what I like to see, a lot of humor that is off the wall, a lot of physical humor. So that's been really rewarding for me.
I love improv. It's one of my favorites, although I say that insofar as watching people who do improv well do improv. The idea myself terrifies me, if I'm quite honest. How do you feel? Okay,
Every
great.
night.
Yeah,
oh my God. Every night I think, am I going to say something tomorrow that's just going to bomb? And I think I've been pretty lucky. I think that we've got a really great cast, and we've got an amazing director and tech team, and everybody's willing to play and let all of us find the characters, find the ideas that we want. And there's nothing in stone. If we think something isn't working, we toss it. If we think something is, we use it. But it's been very relaxed, and that helps with improving dialogue or changing things if they need to be changed.
So given that, Dominic, is it possible that we could come to the show on Friday night or on Saturday night or on Sunday afternoon and get a slightly different show because you and your fellow actors are improvising pieces as you go along?
That's true. Yeah, it depends on how much I remember anyway.
You mentioned that this is one of your favorite times spent on the stage. What brought you to the stage originally?
Well, I've always loved acting and performing. I think that there really isn't anything more exciting than being able to go out onto a stage or be in film or anything like that and just be something else, be able to shed your own skin and say, I am now for the next 90 minutes or whatever it may be, a different person, a different character. And that's always really excited me. So to be able to do this, when I saw it listed as well, I thought this is going to be something that I would love to sink my teeth into. And being able to do that has been really exciting, to be able to be a part of Puffs and have the freedom as well. Because when you do other shows, there are going to be some shows, if you start improving or you change the way things are moving, you change the tone, you're going to start to weaken the show, whether it's, intentional or not. But with this, again, you're able to do so much with the cast, with the dialogue, and even a little bit of a change in inflection. You completely alter the scene.
Jennifer, the Cambridge Community Players perform out of our beautiful theatre on Water Street South in the Galt area. What does that venue offer you as a director when you're staging something like Puffs?
The great thing about Cambridge Community Players and the Cambridge Arts Theatre is that it is our home. So we are the resident of the theatre, which means we have our rehearsal space and our performance space in the same building. We get the benefit of having our set erected well ahead of the show. So the cast has actually been on their set and on their stage for about 3 weeks now prior to open.
And as I mentioned, open is this Friday night, the 28th. Jennifer, where can we get tickets? Where can we learn more and take in this fantastic performance of Puffs?
Absolutely. So we have performances November 28th, 29th, December 5th, and December 6th at 7:30 p.m. and November 30th, December 6th, and December 7th at 2 p.m. You can get tickets by going online to cambridgecommunityplayers.com. They are $25 an adult or $20 a student, and they will also be available at the door. And the doors open 1 hour to showtime.
So 6:30 for the evening shows or 1 p.m. for the matinees. Listen, when I put my show preview together today, I may have used the name of that certain wizard school, and I think I mentioned it at the beginning of this. So if there are any copyright violations, send them to me. It's my fault, okay?
All right, I will do that, Mike.
Great to have you both on the show. Really looking forward to Puffs at the Cambridge Arts Theatre. Thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Dominic Casto is an actor, Jennifer Mountain, the director. It is Puffs taking place at the Cambridge Arts Theatre on Water Street, opening Friday night. That's a 7:30 evening show. There will be another on Saturday night. And then the following Friday and Saturday as well, 7:30 shows. And you'll get matinees this Sunday, the 30th, and then the following weekend, December 6th and 7th, matinee performances of Puffs. And I'll just, again, remind you by way of the description of the show itself, and I'll be most careful this time. For 7 years, a certain boy wizard went to a certain wizard school and conquered evil. This, however, is not his story. This is the story of the Puffs, who just happened to be there too. A tale for anyone who has never been destined to save the world. It is called Puffs, and you can get tickets and more information, as much as copyright will allow, at CambridgeCommunityPlayers.com. So visit there, CambridgeCommunityPlayers.com. Again, the show opens Friday night, 7:30 at the Cambridge Arts Theatre, 47 Water Street, South in Cambridge. Improv, just thinking of Dominic's role, the freedom that he is allowed within it, and thinking of improv as a performance that I've always enjoyed. Those who do it, and now I'm thinking on John Candy, of course, and the background he had with SCTV. You know, when I was a kid, you watched that show, and all it was that, right? It was called SCTV. You didn't think about it as being Second City or anything, at least not me as a kid. I didn't fully understand it. And then you come to realize that so much of what they did on that show was utterly improvisation. And that makes me think of Theater on the Edge, which I'm not sure if they're still doing their thing around here or not. I don't think they are. You used to see it pop up on Rogers TV Cable 20 from time to time. And this was just a group of local actors that did that very thing. Very simple sets and stages. And they would just improv scenes for us to enjoy. It's an incredible gift. Those who can do it and can do it well. It's a lot of fun to watch, and you're going to get a little bit of that freedom for the performers in Puffs. Again, it opens Friday night, the Cambridge Arts Theatre. It's a performance by the Cambridge Community Players, and you can learn more and get your tickets by visiting CambridgeCommunityPlayers.com. A quick break. When we come back, well, wouldn't you know, I mean, winter is upon us, and upon us in a big way starting tomorrow, right? They're talking about 30 to 50. They can't really mean that, can they? Like 1 to 2 feet of snow over 72 hours or so. Something tells me, like maybe Stratford. Stratford, you can have it, okay? I like you, Stratford. I'm not trying to be unkind, but come on with your coming on. Stratford can have it. Maybe we'll get a little bit luckier here in the region. But nonetheless, with winter on the way, what better time for the winter market in Elmira that's coming up on Saturday. You'll be able to get your sleigh through that and get there. I know you will. And we'll tell you more about what you'll find when you arrive as we continue the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It doesn't look a lot like Christmas yet. But, well, the neighborhoods are getting there. I'm starting to see more and more lights as I travel around the region. But really, the weather and the snow on the ground, that's going to be the difference maker. And it'll be here starting tomorrow, which leads us perfectly into Saturday's third annual winter market in Elmira. This is one of the Joyful Vendors markets, and the founder of Joyful Vendors, Maxine Metzger, joins me in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Third annual winter market. These run now multiple times a year, extra markets around the holidays. When you think back on the roots of all of this, Maxine, did you ever think you'd be in this spot talking about seasonal markets, holiday markets, year-round markets?
You know, when you start out and you think you're just going to do something really small, bring a little bit of joy into the community of Elmira once or twice a year, and it grows into the third annual winter market. It's amazing. It's been a wonderful journey, and we've been so happy to help out so many local vendors. So yeah, going into the third winter market on Saturday, it's quite great.
Absolutely incredible. Okay, so tell us what we're going to find at this market on Saturday.
Okay, so we have 40 vendors. Some very courageous vendors that will be set up outside, selling lunch, food, and snacks and such. So we've got lots of vendors from wood makers, like I said, food, locally baked bread, apple pies.
Ooh, I like me some of that.
So like I said, lots of food, and of course lots of gift items as well from young to old. Woodworkers, crochet artists. photographers that will be there. You name it, we've got it. The whole list is on the website. So if people want to know what vendors will all be there, if they're looking for something specific, they can do so.
All right. And that website is joyfulvendorsmarket.com. You mentioned those courageous vendors who are willing to set up outside, but I think that just speaks to the number of people, the number of vendors who have become really interested in being a part of these seasonal markets.
Yeah, I never would have imagined that right from my first show back in the spring a number of years ago that we were selling out and selling these vendor booths months in advance of our shows. So even some for next year are getting filled up already. So there was quite a waiting list for this winter market, and some of the vendors got back to us and said, you know what, we're going to be courageous and go outside. That was before they knew the weather forecast.
Oh my goodness, I know.
So I hope everybody's prepared, but dress warm, like you said earlier. Ride your sleigh to Elmira, bring your snowmobile, whatever, and come on out and support these local vendors. They're really it's going to be lots of creative items there for a Christmas gift and even for your home. So it'll be great.
You mentioned a waiting list. Take me behind the scenes a little bit here of what goes in. Like, this is great. You know, on Saturday from 10 until 3 at Galt Presbyterian Church, the winter market's going to happen. Great. Yes. But what happened to make it happen?
Well, vendors apply to come in and obviously show at our markets, and we have a team that goes through all of those vendor applications. It all started with a dream of just supporting local businesses through COVID that were having a hard time keeping their doors open. So if we could give them an opportunity to become part of this community of local vendors and then have this place to all come together and sell together. It really is a different shopping experience from going to the mall, like we had said before. You know that you are helping this local vendor put food on their table and buy Christmas gifts for their own families. And of course, you know, all the other living expenses that have increased. But it truly is a process for these vendors to become part of our shows. We're quite picky. We love to support the local and everyone from within the Waterloo region first. That's our mandate. That's our goal. And of course, we try and get a wide variety of vendors in there. So you might not see the same vendor at our show more than, 2 or 3 times because we try and cycle through those that have also been on the waiting list. So yeah, it's quite a process to get into these events, but we had no idea when we started that we would have waiting lists like we do now.
You mentioned that shopping experience that we get at a market like this, and you and I were talking during the commercial break about that very thing. My beloved and I have been to several already, and it really, I think you and I, Maxine, feel similarly about the supporting local and shopping local that we get with markets just like this.
Yeah, it's truly a sense of community when you walk in the doors. You're able to meet and greet maybe your fellow neighbors there, or somebody that maybe you haven't seen for a while as well. Come to these events at all to shop local. The vendors love it. They, cross promote each other. They've learned from each other as well. So it truly is a community feel. Not that you can't get that at another local store at the mall, but there's just something different about being in that atmosphere where everybody has come together, all kind of for the same good of supporting these local small businesses.
Absolutely. Okay, so 3rd annual winter market, Saturday in Elmira. What details do we need to know?
Okay, so doors open at 10 and it goes until 3. There's food vendors there, so plan on coming, grabbing some lunch and walking around, enjoying some other snacks as well. Shop from 40 plus vendors, from woodwork to toys to stocking stuffers, crochet items, home decor, you name it. We have so many different things. Again, you can visit www.joyfulvendorsmarket.com to see a whole list of vendors and all of the other details, or to apply for a 2026 show if you're a vendor.
There you go. We'll get into the next season's shows for sure. And all of this happening at Galt Presbyterian Church, which is on Barn Swallow Drive in Elmira. Are you ready? I mean, here we are Wednesday morning, about 72 hours away.
I'm getting some extra shovels ready to make sure the sidewalks are clear to get people in. But yes, we are ready, and we're so excited to welcome everybody to this event.
Perfect. And make sure you support those courageous outdoor vendors while you're there. Get inside and stay warm as well, but it's going to be a great day. Saturday, 10 until 3 at Galt Presbyterian Church in Elmira, the 3rd annual winter market. Maxine, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for bringing treats. These were right out of your own kitchen.
Yeah, I made some extra treats for you. You got to get some Christmas joy into your studio here today, Mike.
I'm gonna that Christmas joy is going straight into me belly.
Absolutely.
I'm not sharing with anybody.
From my kitchen to your belly. Merry Christmas.
Thank you again. Maxine Metzger is the founder of Joyful Vendors. Again, joyfulvendorsmarket.com for details on Saturday's market. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. There are plans underway in Cambridge to create a heritage conservation district in the Galt core. And it sounds pretty simple when you just say it like that, right? We want to create a heritage conservation district. And we talk about heritage quite a bit on this show. And I get the sense that many of you feel similarly about protecting some of what we have had in this community for a long time. I'm thinking, as we talk about Cambridge, probably most specifically, the old Preston Springs Hotel. I remember the day that came down, I stopped by just out of curiosity as a news person, and I couldn't believe the crowd that had gathered when the demolition began at the Preston Springs Hotel. And every time we lose a building like that, we talk about the much more bland nature of architecture for the most part today, and how we lose some of these more historic or heritage-like buildings, and we bemoan the fact that we've lost some of that character in our community. That said, when we create heritage conservation districts, or we declare certain buildings to have heritage value, it changes somewhat dramatically what we can do with them, how we build around them, and a bunch of different things like that. So it's a little bit more complicated than it sounds on the surface. Oh, in Cambridge, they'd like a heritage conservation district in the core of the Galt part of the city. So to talk about where we're at and why we're doing this in Cambridge, we're joined by Ward 5 Councillor Sherry Roberts, whose ward would include some of this proposed heritage conservation district. Sherry, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. And just to clarify, all of this heritage conservation district would be on the east side of the river, so it wouldn't actually include any portion of my of Ward 5, but I'm happy to speak about it.
Oh, I'm glad. Just on the other side then. I see the rivers always mess me up in Cambridge,
Yeah,
Sherry.
okay.
That's why I get lost every time I come down that way. Okay, so let's talk about the Heritage Conservation District and why we're looking at this plan.
Yeah, so, most folks, may not be aware really of what a heritage conservation district plan is, and I would include myself in that just a few years ago, before I got on council. In my mind, an HCD was something that was going to sort of freeze an area in time. That was whatever was there is what's going to be there, in perpetuity. And I've come to learn that that's actually not the case at all. It's a planning and management document that's used to help us with our planning as we look to make changes in these areas.
So does that still then allow for modifications of that streetscape? So it does look different?
Yeah, absolutely. So a goal of an HCD, like I said, is not to, freeze an area in a particular time. It's certainly not to, stifle creativity or design or development. But it's really just to manage the change that happens within those boundaries so that it's consistent with the character of the heritage areas. So in this case, there's a very clear focus from the outset that our core needs development. It is a major transit station area. It's within the urban growth center, which comes with, as you know, density targets that we have to reach. So the HCD plan is really taking all of this into consideration when coming up with the final plan and making recommendations that we are going to have to, of course, include our developments. But how can we do those in a way that still take into consideration are sympathetic to the beautiful heritage buildings that we do have in our core?
How much input will the public have in this process?
Yeah, well, there has been a lot, in the last number of years. This has been an ongoing plan for many years. It was paused back in 2023 to have a look at a boundary expansion of the HCD. So we have had a couple of years off, but there is going to be an open house coming up on December the 8th at City Hall in the Bowman Room, so on the main floor. And that's open to any members of the public who want to come in and speak to staff, the consultants, council, about their concerns or just with questions about what an HCD is, how it would work. So I really encourage folks to come out to that. That's 4 to 7 p.m. on Monday, December the 8th.
Some have already argued, Sherry, that the existing Main Street Heritage Conservation District is sufficient and this new plan is overly broad. How do you respond to concerns like that?
I think we do have to be careful not to, make an HCD too large, because then it does start to really lose the purpose and can become less effective. I do think that there are some properties that are not directly on Main Street that are worth including in the HCD. But I think we do have to be careful about continuing to grow the boundaries, which I know there's some conversations happening right now about that, about potentially a further expansion. So I would be, I would have a lot of questions about that. I do think it needs to be a very specific area that includes mainly contributing properties. So within our HCD, there's non-contributing and contributing properties. And then, of course, like some of our parks and public realms that are included. So I think we just have to be very careful of using this tool wisely.
So if indeed we do expand the boundaries of the Heritage Conservation District in the core of Galt, and I'm a property owner that then becomes included in this new boundary, what does that mean for me?
Yeah, so basically it just clearly outlines, what would require a permit. So any minor alterations would likely not require a permit. It's quite clear in the plan and the draft plan that we have now what's considered a minor alteration versus something major. So the consultant last night, answered this question really well. She said, this plan is not going to be put in place to stop people from painting their front door or doing like minor alterations to their homes. It's really about preserving our heritage buildings when people are looking at doing something more major, up to and including, what you had referenced at the opening, something like demolition. So in that case, obviously, if there's going to be a massive change to a building, a major renovation or an addition or a development, then yes, there are going to be certain parameters that people have to comply with. But, heritage planning and strong development don't have to compete with each other. They can really complement one another. And I think that having clear understandings about what the rules are can really help our developers, as they'll have, things will be predictable for them. Moving forward, they know what to expect and they can plan, a beautiful building within the parameters of what is allowed.
I'm glad you mentioned that consultant last evening, because I know there was a public meeting and I've been hearing or reading, I guess, a lot about this, a lot of chatter online, but I'm wondering how invested the public seems to be. That meeting last night, you mentioned the next one coming up on Monday, December the 8th, which I would encourage people to get involved in. But is the community invested in this process, Sherry?
I've heard from some folks, and I really hope to hear from more. I think that it's important that we hear from the public. This is our community. It's a community for all of us, and we should all have a say in the planning going forward and how we want to see our community grow. So I certainly encourage folks to reach out to whether it be their counselor or come out to the meetings and have their voices heard.
Sherry, thank you very much for making time for the show this morning. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mike. Can I mention one quick thing before we say goodbye?
Please do.
Yes, so there's a really exciting event happening here in West Galt tomorrow. We're bringing back the Christmas tree lighting in Queen Square. And I know we're expecting some snow, but we're hardy Canadians, right? So we can bundle up. And it's at 6:30 tomorrow night if anyone wants to come out and kick off the festive season with us.
Listen, it wouldn't be a tree lighting and festive enough if we didn't have the snow. So we're going to make this work.
I agree. Christmas needs a little snow.
It does. Sherry, thank you for that. I'm glad you were able to plug that, and we'll remind folks. 6:30 tomorrow, Queen Square. The Christmas tree lighting is back.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Thanks, Sherry. Have a great day.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Sherry Roberts, Ward 5 councillor in the city of Cambridge. I have to come clean on this because, it's all about transparency on this show. Accountability. So I will be accountable in a transparent way for my error. I even looked at the ward map for the city of Cambridge to determine who would best be positioned to talk about the Heritage Conservation District in the Galt Core. And I saw Main Street. I'm positive that at least part of Councillor Roberts' ward, but other side of the river. Here we are. I admit also to way back in the day, and this is where my phobias come into play, when I was working for B&D Deliveries. Boy, oh boy, if I ever had to go on the Cambridge route, I got so twisted up trying to drive around. And I know, because it used to be Preston, Galt, Hespeler as individual cities, and then it's all just one Cambridge thing, and the dispatcher sends me in one place, and I would get so twisted up. The river, you can't get around here, you can't do that, whatever. I was confused. I've got this phobia. Galt, by the way, is one of my absolutely favorite places in the entire region. It is so pretty down there. So why not be there for the tree lighting at Queen Square tomorrow at 6:30? I'm glad. Look at that. Councillor Roberts here in Cambridge reminding us of that. Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe was on with us earlier talking about the pool proposal in Waterloo. And she had just come from the start of the 34th annual Christmas Dreams raffle at Conestoga Mall. That's our May Court Club of KW that does this every year, raises money for Kids Ability, the Wren Foundation, our local hospital network, etc. Lots of great initiatives. So much going on in the community, and so much of it like positive and helpful and all of these great things. So the tree lighting, Queen Square tomorrow night. But I honestly thought, even when I looked at the ward map in Cambridge, that I had the right councillor. And obviously, Sherry can speak to this very well. She is invested in her work and does her job very well. But you can take that for what it's worth with me even getting the wards mixed up or not picking the right ward for the Galt core because I'm geographically challenged in Cambridge. I love you, Cambridge. I do. I just find you a little bit difficult to navigate sometimes. And I still can't figure out why Hespeler Road is in Galt. Anyway, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to leave that alone because this is me just being my confused self. I find the conversation around the expansion of the Heritage Conservation District a very interesting one. Our friends at Citizens for Cambridge, which is an excellent grassroots organization that opines on all things Cambridge, have expressed concern with the changes to the Heritage Conservation District in the Galt Core. And Citizens for Cambridge says in its memo, we fully support preserving Cambridge's heritage, but the proposed boundary is far too broad and risks undermining the future of the downtown core. Many property owners and stakeholders were unaware of the scale and implications of this proposal until very recently, which suggests that a more transparent and proactive engagement process is needed before moving forward. So remember, too late for the public meeting last night, but there was one. And there's another coming up on Monday. Let me just make sure that is a Monday. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, Monday, December the 8th in the Bowman Room at Cambridge City Hall. And that'll be 4 until 7 p.m. So make a note, Monday, December the 8th, there will be more public input, public engagement on the proposed Galt Core Heritage Conservation District. People worry about these things. We want to preserve heritage, but we also don't want to undermine or make it more difficult to develop. And these are the balances we try to strike in our municipalities these days. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Heritage planning and strong development don't have to compete with each other. They can really complement one another. And I think that having clear understandings about what the rules are can really help our developers, as they'll have, things will be predictable for them. Moving forward, they know what to expect and they can plan a beautiful building within the parameters of what is allowed.
Cambridge Ward 5 Councillor Sherry Roberts joining us to talk about the Galt Core Heritage Conservation District, the boundaries of which will likely be expanded. Public meeting coming up on Monday, December the 8th in the Bowman Room at Cambridge City Hall between 4 and 7 p.m. It's a couple of weeks away, well, just under 2 weeks away. A week from next Monday, to be exact. But I encourage you to get involved, understand what is being proposed, weigh in with your thoughts on it, get questions answered as they were at a public meeting yesterday, because we do want to preserve the beauty, especially in the Galt area. As I said before, is there a more beautiful area in the entirety of the region? It's certainly up there in that conversation. And we want to preserve the unique heritage features of that particular part of our community. But as Councillor Roberts told us in that conversation, it doesn't mean that it stays the same in perpetuity. So they're working on it, giving some certainty to developers once this new plan is in place. And again, the public consultation continues Monday, December the 8th, Bowman Room at Cambridge City Hall. I want to remind you about our 570 News Radio Tree of Hope 50-50 raffle. If you have not yet gotten yourself a ticket, why don't you think about doing that today sometime? Maybe right now. In fact, there is a guaranteed jackpot of $50,000. That's your take home, which means also the charitable partner in all of this, which is Waterloo Region Family and Children's Services, is also getting a minimum of $50,000. And we know the jackpot's going to go even higher than that. This is our annual effort to support Family and Children's Services here in Waterloo Region. And you can help out by buying a 50-50 raffle ticket. They start at just $10. So you put in your 10, you get a chance at 50,000 plus. I will just put it that way. And the reason I suggest maybe you make that purchase now or sometime today is because we have an early bird draw being made on Friday morning. Couple of tickets to see the Jonas Brothers in Hamilton on December the 14th and $1,000 in cold hard cash. Just like that. All you have to do is have your ticket before Friday morning at 8. And even if you win the early bird prize, you're still in for the overall draw jackpot. So you can win both, for example. Get your tickets at facs5050.com. F for family, A for and, C for children's, S for services. Family and Children's Services. facs5050.com. Get your raffle ticket. Get in on that $50,000 minimum jackpot. And our next early bird prize, which will be drawn on Friday morning at 8 for a couple of tickets to see the Jonas Brothers and $1,000 in cash. Congratulations again to Lisa Blunden, who won our early bird draw last Friday. She's still in the jackpot for $50,000 minimum. Plus, she won herself a Kitchener Rangers VIP experience. Stick signed by the entire team, meet and greet with a Ranger player, and a seat in the broadcast booth with me and Josh Piercy. We'll probably even put Lisa on the air and have some fun at the game when she's there. But anyway, get your tickets now. facs5050.com. Let's help out Family and Children's Services this holiday season. We are midway through the week. We've got big, bad weather coming our way. And so by Friday, it's going to look a lot like Christmas out there, if you know what I mean. 30 to 50 centimeters of snow possible between Thursday and Saturday. I'm hoping we don't get quite that much, but the bottom line is we're going to have snow on the ground. And so that's why I decided to make our All Request Friday theme this week winter. I have an email from Heather to Mike at 570news.com. All Request Friday, song choice, Cold as Ice. That's an excellent choice, Heather, and we'll make sure we play it. If you want to play along and have a little bit of your favorite song or your song choice played on All Request Friday, just drop me an email, Mike at 570news.com, or when you call in to talk about the issues of the day, or you just call Devin right now and tell him, this is the song I want to hear on All Request Friday this week. It just has to fit the theme of winter. You fit that theme however you would like. So that's our All Request Friday theme this week, winter. Get your requests in. I'm going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then Wednesday mornings, 11:30, Rob Deutschman joins us in studio for a little political R&D. The guy has been around municipal politics for an awfully long time. Maybe he can help us better understand what's going on in Cambridge. Political R&D next on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. There you go, misunderstanding. There is a misunderstanding in this studio.
Oh, man.
As we get set for some political R&D with Rob Deutschman.
I call it the education of M and F.
Master and...
and failure.
I'm a master at failing. You are right about that. Rob Deutschman is a former regional councillor, former mayor of North Dumfries Township, former candidate for the provincial Liberals.
And regional chair.
And regional chair. Candidate for that, too.
Everything.
Speaking of failure.
Is there dog catcher positions? Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Well,
ouch.
you brought it
ouch.
up.
Ouch.
Come on. You deserved it after calling me a master
That's
of failure.
true. I can take it.
All right. We do this every Wednesday morning at 11:30.
Get abused?
Yes. We start off with some abuse, and then we get down into the nuts and bolts of what's going on municipally.
Oh.
That's a lot.
Mike, there's so much going on. Like, I thought, we'll just have a discussion, which we will, about the Cambridge budget process, right? But then Louisa does her article about Doug Ford wanting to possibly appoint a regional chair, which had been, chatter under the radar for a while, but now it's full blown out there.
Good for Louisa for putting that out there.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, it's I think it's definitely news. You've got the Heritage Conservation District discussion going on in Cambridge. I've had some experience with that. When I was mayor, we did a Heritage Conservation District, which is not, people get all concerned about any sort of heritage designation, but it's different than actually designating a home as a heritage property and then the restrictions that come with that. But, some people are thinking, well, why is this expansive Heritage Conservation District coming shortly after the vote on the ION? And there was one vote against it, and now you've got this Heritage Conservation. So there's chatter about that going on.
You mean the chatter that it could be the Heritage Conservation District expansion could impede getting tracks laid down?
The region and whatever it'll be by then, and the cities always seem to work it out. So things get worked out. But that was one thing.
But they kind of seem to get in each other's way, too.
A little bit. So I guess amalgamation. But
darn right, amalgamation.
And then we had, like in Wilmot last night, was interesting because there were two things, actually. One was they had a report that talked about the history of their staffing situation, which I found very interesting, being a former mayor in one of the townships, and the difficulties that you run into in trying to attract staff to the smaller townships and retaining staff, and what that was like 15 years ago. It felt like I was reading a report that was talking about us 15 years ago. And then there was, at the end of the meeting, they had the mayor used strong mayor powers to pass a holding bylaw over properties with I think it was called a Z12 institutional designation. And interestingly, someone had sent me some information about the Working Center working on a project that was to assist people who have successfully completed drug and alcohol rehab programs. And then there's that, continuing, trying to maintain that success and support. And
so
it was
a bit of a transitional shelter of some
like
kind?
a 1 year sort of thing, right? And like that final mile. And it was to establish a drug-free, alcohol-free center that would house, I think it was up to 20 people, and would provide high school education or skills training to them during that whole process. There's actually a website. I'll flip you the website to take a look at. But now that got halted too. But so there's all this stuff going on.
Why did it get salted? What happened?
Well, a holding bylaw got passed. So when a holding bylaw gets passed, and it was similar to what Mayor Craig passed when the CTS discussion was going on in Cambridge, a 2-year holding bylaw was passed over all of the cores in Cambridge, Hespeler, Preston, and Galt, so that you could not put in a CTS for a 2-year period. This was a holding bylaw for a 1-year period, and it allows them, the purpose, as explained by the mayor, was to do a review of their of this zoning, because I guess it was last designated or established in the 1983 or something like that. So they're going to do a review of it and make sure that it does what the community wants it to do.
Isn't that interesting that it's a 1-year holding bylaw, by which time the next election will have passed, so you don't have to have this in front of you during an election campaign?
That's your devious mind, not mine.
Okay,
So.
That's just simply pointing out a fact.
That's the reporter in you. I'm just a commentator.
That is very interesting in Wilmette. And wasn't it Catherine McGarry's council, actually, that put in that interim bylaw in Cambridge?
No. She, so what happened, and one of the problems they had was that it was removed and then they passed a CTS motion quickly without waived notice and stuff, and it caused a lot of concern about issues of transparency and notice and that sort of thing. But it was Doug's
initial holding bylaw.
Yeah, that put it in initially.
Okay.
So now we're on to what I think is an interesting conversation as well is the progression. It's sort of like as the world turns here. It's a bit of political soap opera.
Yes.
Because we talked last time about what they went through and the concerns that everybody had about what are these criteria for bringing a motion forward.
And this is Cambridge budget now we're focused on.
Yeah, Cambridge budget. And so, and you recall, I contacted you, I think during the day on Monday, and I said, I was just on the Cambridge website and saw this addition to their agenda package, which was a listing of all the motions, which had the councillors' information, and then they had staff input or comments on each of the motions. And I thought that was really good information because it provided some background information from the staff perspective that provided good background information about what this motion, the implications were, what have you, but some history, which you don't see. This is not generally seen, this sort of thing. And I thought, this is great. And so then I'm watching the budget meeting, and immediately councillors were upset. Because I guess what happened was while this had good intentions, the application of it wasn't handled very well. So they suddenly got all this information. Some of them only got it at the meeting. So if you're only getting it at the meeting, as we had divine intervention, Councillor Devine.
I loved his performance.
His comment. I think, look, I'll give staff the benefit of the doubt that they're trying to provide additional information. I think everything seems to be rushed. And so we don't have as much time as they would like to get, because normally a councillor would get their package, let's say on a Friday. The meeting's on Monday. They got the weekend to take a look at it. In this case, they were getting all this information. There probably should have been some better explanation ahead of time, or there should have been better explanation ahead of time, maybe from the CAO or the mayor, because the mayor actually started her meeting by commenting on what occurred before and how they wanted to do better. And then immediately after that, it kind of disintegrated in some people being upset, and so they had to adjourn for some time to allow everybody to read the information. But it's good information, and the intent was good.
Sure, but 30 minutes recess during the meeting is far removed from the 48 to 60 hours you have if your packet is delivered in its entirety on time.
Yeah, but you're probably it wouldn't take you more than 30 minutes to go through this stuff. So it was only 14 motions with information, right? And it's not like full pages. I printed it off. It's like 25 pages of stuff that you could get through quick enough. And I think if they looked at the information, a lot of it was like on Councillor Hamilton's motion, for example, about the festival grounds. A lot of the information actually reflected the conversation that they had in that Can't Ask Council Questions meeting. So a lot of it was in there. So, for example, I know there was this concern, well, why is staff suggesting amendments to the motion? Well, I can tell you if a councillor went to staff before a meeting and said, hey, look, here's my motion that I'm thinking of bringing, staff is going to make some suggestion. I mean, the whole purpose of bringing it to staff is for them to have a review and tell me if I'm in the right direction here, because we don't know, as a counselor, we don't know everything that's going on. And the whole purpose is to get educated as we're going through this process. And so it's like, here's my motion, tell me, and they might say, well, make some tweaks here, make some tweaks there. That's very common to do. So I didn't think it was that bad that there was some of this information, because I remember I watched the first meeting, I watched the second meeting, and for example, there was a suggestion to amend the motion to say instead of 750,000 to say 150,000, which I remember that being suggested by Mayor Leggett to Councillor Hamilton during the meeting, and to better reflect what she intended with respect to the festival space. And the 150 was to be used to do a study to see if it was appropriate, et cetera, and that's what it was going to cost. So
what it looks like to me in Cambridge right now is a competition to demonstrate which side of the horseshoe has less experience, councillors or staff. It really, because
that's too harsh.
Is it?
Yes.
This is not the first strong mayor's budget they've done, Rob. Why? And no other strong mayor's budget in our municipality is happening this way. What is wrong? Like, why can't Cambridge do it like Kitchener is doing it?
I think, they are generally doing it like Kitchener, because the budget's being introduced.
Why is the soap opera only in Cambridge?
Okay, I got you.
Well, but that's the answer. That's the answer I want.
Do you want me to finish?
Why is it different?
I'm telling you why.
Okay.
So but first I got to say it's the same in terms of the process. Okay, the mayor introduces a budget, amendments are put forward. The mayor, they're voted on. The mayor decides whether he or she is going to veto them, and then the council decides whether they're going to do that.
Sure,
Kitchener's doing that process.
I understand that.
They don't. I don't know if they have any amendments or not to what Mayor Verbanovic has proposed yet. In this case, there were amendments. The problem was the amendment process. Okay, they added some layers to the amendment process which really didn't need to be added.
Which suggested staff was too inexperienced to deal with it.
No. What was the councillor can put forward an amendment. What the mayor had suggested was talk to staff first, or before it came forward. So it was that step of talking to staff first.
But then it didn't get it on the agenda.
Well, eventually it did, because that wasn't an appropriate step.
Eventually it did.
Yeah, it did. It did within that meeting. It did.
Inexperience, Rob. I'm standing on that.
Okay. It's not inexperience. They're all experienced. What they're trying to do is offer some suggestions, because talking to staff ahead of time is what happens. It's always happened. Okay. And it's always encouraged. When Mayor Liggett was a councillor, she was encouraged by Councillor Mayor Craig to speak to staff ahead of time. Yes. Because the whole idea is to save time during council meetings. And because at a council meeting, you don't have the time that you have separately in a staff meeting to ask all the questions you want. You can get a better feedback, ask more questions when you're one-on-one. And that's what they were trying to do. But that's all.
For 2 weeks in a row, we've had either...
Well, okay.
But amendments showed up only the night of, so councillors were grilling one another. That happened on the 17th. And then this Monday on the 24th, they had this 25-page document handed to them that Councillor Devine called disgusting.
That's not correct.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay, let me look at. I'm the R&D in this segment.
I know, but Rob, you can't.
Let me tell you. I'm telling you what happened. I'm going to tell you what you said. The amendment showed up the night before.
The day of.
No.
Yes, they did.
Okay. The listeners don't want to hear us go back and forth saying yes, no.
But so you can't change history.
I'm not changing anything. Okay. Councillor Hamilton, Kimpson, Schwery in the first round submitted their amendments well in advance. Okay. The issue, though, was they were told on a Friday before the Monday meeting that they weren't allowed to move forward because they didn't talk to staff. So they submitted them. They didn't submit them the night before. So then,
but when did the amendment show up on the agenda? On the day of the meeting?
Because they were told it's going to go ahead.
Well, that's what I said.
Not quite. So now then they said on the 24th, we're going to allow additional amendments. And that's where Councillor Armetta, for example, had 7 additional amendments that he brought forward that they voted on. So everything moved ahead. Okay. The issue was they submitted them in time. There was a criteria that was established that really wasn't appropriate. Councillors were working over that weekend, so I think they probably had an idea it was going to be moving ahead, or they were going to bring it ahead. And so everyone had them in advance.
But that's not the way it should happen. This is the point.
Oh, you're talking about, I don't know. I agree that there was a added criteria, okay? And again, the intention was good. The intention was to get councillors to talk to staff if you had questions ahead of time. Just like the intention here was to provide background information, written background information, comments from staff that councillors could review. It would have been good if they had this a week in advance.
You think?
Yeah, but it's an evolving process, Mike. Nothing's perfect.
Inexperience. I'm standing on it, Rob. If you were experienced,
I'm not standing on that.
All right.
All these people are experienced.
Well,
then many years.
Act like it. Act like it.
Look at all of this information reflects experience. Okay, the timing was the problem.
Right, and if you're experienced, you'd time it better. Okay,
life's not always that straightforward.
I wish it was. It would be if I was running the
We're going to talk about the reserve issue in the next segment.
It's perfect because we disagree on the use of it.
I have to straighten you out.
Rob Deutschman, political R&D.
Let's have an extended intermission so I can work you over.
Wednesday mornings, 11:30 here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio, Rogers TV. Wednesday mornings at 11:30, Rob Deutschman joins us for some political R&D.
I think it's Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
We've been at odds a little bit this morning.
You know what the next song's going to be? A buffer. It's on. It's time.
Let's get ready to rumble. Okay, final minutes today. You and I have a different perspective on the use of the tax stabilization reserve fund to bring down the overall increase in Cambridge this year. I just don't think, Rob, that this is the emergency that such a fund is reserved for.
Right. And that's your opinion. And I think we both said, we 100% agree that we'll never get 100% agreement on anything. So first off, what is the tax rate stabilization fund? The tax rate stabilization fund is generally the fund. The money in the fund is from taxes that are collected. Okay, so what happens is at the end of the year, if there is a surplus, because let's say there's gaps in staff, which is happening in Cambridge as well, or you don't need to plow as much snow. You've got some savings, so you have a surplus at the end of the year because municipalities can't budget for a surplus or a deficit, right? Zero-based. And so you've got this surplus, and you'll have a bylaw that says, okay, so much of that money has to go into a tax rate stabilization fund. And the whole purpose of that is to cover those years when you have a deficit. All right, so it makes sense. And the bylaw tells you what you're supposed to have in there. So it was interesting because they had that discussion. So it's a good thing you could ask staff questions because the councillors were asking good questions about this fund. And so the tax rate stabilization fund, the first question is, well, how much is supposed to be in there? Okay. And they have a bylaw, and I'm just going to sort of paraphrase because I don't remember it exactly, but and it was a bit odd, but it was like it had to have a range that was between, let's say, 6% and 17 and 15% of operating. So that meant, so they said, well, what does that mean in numbers? And it was sort of like between $6 million and $17 million. That was the range that you had to have in your tax rate stabilization fund. So then the next question, well, how much do we have in there? $16 million. So they have $16 million in something that's supposed to have a range between 7 to 17 or 6 to 17. So then they say, okay, well, but we have some commitments, which happens because during the course of the year, you might commit to some projects and you use the reserve fund to pay for it. And so they said, okay, well, we have a $3 million commitment, so that brings it down to 13. And then there was something else they said it was a $3.1 million commitment. Okay, and then initially they said that brings it down to $7 million. Actually, and then the Councillor Earnshaw, lawyer, reflecting that lawyers can do math, said, no, my math is it's 10. So thank you, Ross, for taking care of that and defending us. So it's 10. So then they said, well, how much of that so then Councillor Kimson said, well, okay, well, let me ask you about that 3.1 million. What's it all about? And it turned out of that 3.1 million, the only commitment was about 500,000. So that left about 2.6. So now you're at 12.6. So you have a tax rate stabilization fund that has $12.6 million. And the range that you're required, according to your bylaw, is like between 7 and 16 or 17 million. Okay, so you're in the middle of it. So what is this money? This money is so that fund could be at 10 million, and you're still within your range.
But in theory, the reason these funds exist, because we're going to run out of time, are supposed to fund what? Emergencies?
No, to fund a variety of things. Well, you can know it's completely discretionary. The bylaw outlines what you can use it for.
Yes,
it gets used for all sorts of things.
I know, okay? but what should it be used for?
It should be used for what the bylaw says it should be used for. Mike, that's how it goes.
It's too broad.
Well, then you change the bylaw.
Well, that's what I would do.
In this case, then, I don't have a problem with the use of the fund because they wanted to use 2.4. Now, it goes like this. Let's say your taxes last year were 100, and now this year it's going to be 110. So what they're saying is, look, out of that 110, we're going to give you 5. So now it's 105. All right? Out of that 5, some of it is one time, which is not even going to be recurring next year. So your tax starts at next year 108, which is what you're going to have to pay anyway. So and the increase. So basically what they're doing is they're giving the taxpayers back some of the money, the extra money they collected from the taxpayers that they didn't need in the first place. That's what's happening in this situation.
I love efforts to reduce tax levies. There's no question about that.
Right.
I worry that when the rain really does start to fall, when that emergency is there, then we're like, ooh, now our tax stabilization fund is here.
Mike, they've got 10 million in there, and they're required to have between 7 and 17. They're above the minimum of what they're supposed to have. What is the right number?
And
the right number is what they said in the bylaw.
They're taking 2 point something out for this stabilization.
Yeah, to make it, and now it's down to around 10.
Now it's down to around 10.
And it's above the minimum.
I hope it doesn't start raining too hard in Cambridge anytime soon.
But Mike, the other thing too is you got to remember, reserve funds, they have many reserve funds. They have tens of millions of dollars in reserves on stuff that you can't touch, like maybe some road work or water works or what have you. There are lots of reserve funds that are established or development charge funds that are set up for certain specific items. Tax rate stabilization fund is completely discretionary based on the bylaw established by council. So I personally don't have a problem with what they're doing in this situation. The alternative could have been, they could have said, well, we'll only fund $1.5 million because that was one-time items in the budget, which would not have had any impact the year following. But they decided to go the whole 2.4. Look at councillors are saying, like Councillor Ameta said, people are coming up to me who have never talked to me about property taxes, talking to me about property taxes. When you're a councillor in your community and that's what you're hearing, if people wanted to go the other way, then they got to talk to their councillor.
So many reserve funds, so little time. Thank you, Rob.
Well, I just wanted a shout out to Councillor Ameta, who tried his best. Unfortunately, went 0 for 7, but at least he's out there. And the other thing we got to talk about is there were 14 amendments.
We got to go fast.
Only one of them was going to impact the tax levy. So that's another thing we'll have to talk about in the future. But anyway,
so much
stuff going on, Mike.
Every Wednesday morning, 11:30. Talkback is next on the Mike Farwell Show.
I'll talk back.
570 News Radio, Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night.
Don't talk back.
That is the sound that marks the beginning of our daily 60-minute adventure. This adventure, Open Line Radio. If you've never tried it, I highly recommend it. Very good for the blood pressure and or heart rate. It's like walking a high wire without a net down below. And I absolutely love it every day, hearing directly from you about the issues of the day. Maybe there's a story we discussed you didn't get to have your say on before, or maybe there's an issue that matters to you that you want to share with us. We're here for it. Love to hear from you. Phone lines open for the next 60 minutes at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. If you missed it earlier in the show, just a quick reminder, it sounds like Ontario Premier Doug Ford is very interested in getting his hands into regional government structures in this province. There's one in Niagara, there's York region, there's our region here, Waterloo region. And the changes he would like to see happen include the end of regional councillors directly elected. So we would not be, if this change happens, voting for regional councillors next October when the municipal election rolls around. You'll just vote for your city councillor or township councillor and mayor. That's it. School board trustees. But no more regional councillors. The regional chair would not be elected anymore. It would be directly appointed. So you'd have an appointed chair. The rest of that regional government would be made up of the locally elected mayors, and each mayor would have a weighted vote depending on the size of the municipality they represent. So Kitchener Mayor Barry Verbanovic, for example, would have the most weight behind his vote at the region because he represents the largest city in the region. No more elected regional councillors and that appointed mayor. I still would rather see the region or both layers of government taken out entirely. But my main takeaway from all of this is I don't like, and I don't think any of us will like, the appointed chair, because we live in democracies, don't we? We want to be able to vote for the people that represent us or make decisions on our behalf. So I don't like the idea of an appointment at all. But above and beyond all of that, too damn bad is what I say in all of this, because I've been harping for years on the need for us to do something with what I believe to be an antiquated governance structure, 2-tier, 59 councillors. Like, there's a whole lot of ridiculous in the system. And we resisted. And we kept resisting. The efforts to reform have gone back decades. And nobody did a darn thing. And I've been saying for a long time, if we don't do this, somebody will come in and do it for us. And that's what it sounds like is going to happen. And now we won't like it and we'll hum and we'll haw. But see, I think the main part of this is we don't have to take responsibility for it, right? Well, the premier did it. The province did it to us. No. I'm not going to let anybody off the hook that easily. We had our chance, multiple chances. Great ideas were brought forward in this community. And too many municipal politicians, in my opinion, started trying to protect their own little fiefdoms. And here we are. So now we're going to get what we get. And I, for one, say, okay, like it's our own fault. This is the consequence for inaction over all these years. Anything else you want to talk about? Open lines. As I said, Talkback begins. And Preston Paul, Farwell's Force member number 45, is up first.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon, my friend.
Back in 1994, I was lucky enough to be an on-ice official for the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. And I got to meet Colleen Jones.
You lucky so-and-so.
She was such a nice person. She was very warming, came over and talked to me while I was charting the rocks and everything. So I just want to put out there that I felt bad yesterday because I was watching the curling when the news came over that she had passed away at 65, right around my age. So that's all I got to say, Mike.
All right, Paul. Thanks for bringing that up. Really appreciate it, because when I got that news alert yesterday as well, I had that same feeling. It's just nothing but good things were ever said about Colleen Jones. I remember her, of course, from her broadcasting career that followed, but just seemed to be a class act all the way around. And, of course, one of Canada's preeminent curlers. So you certainly feel the sting of that loss. And 65 is way, way too young. So thanks for sharing that, Paul. Glad to hear it. Dave, Farwell's Force member number 47. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. And thanks for the previous caller's comment, because that was exactly what I was going to talk to you about. But I'll change the subject quickly. And I'd like to say I'm going to ask a stupid question.
There's no such thing as a stupid question, Dave.
Well, this is a stupid question.
Okay. You be the judge.
You will be too.
Okay.
Let's say the Premier of Ontario, Mr. Ford, brings about all these massive changes to our regional government. Let's assume that.
I think it's a safe assumption. Okay.
Does that mean that after that's done, there'll be a publication released of the ceiling report? Good day, Mike.
Thanks, Dave. You have a good day, too. I don't think Dave's question is stupid at all. I think it's rhetorical, because we know the answer to that, right? And I'm fairly confident. I mean, I'm going to say 99.7% confident. The answer is no. That Sealing Fen report, former regional chair Ken Sealing, along with his colleague Michael Fenn, put together this report years ago. And to the best of our knowledge, it is collecting dust on a shelf somewhere at Queen's Park. And the parties responsible for that report's preparation, Messieurs Sealing and Fenn, are bound by non-disclosure agreements. I wonder how long those non-disclosure agreements last. Is there a lifespan on them, or do they last in perpetuity? Could there at some point be an expiration of the NDA so Ken Sealing can tell us what he put, along with Michael Fenn, into that report? I think that's interesting. Got me thinking now. I doubt that there is an expiration date on that. But we know that the report exists, and it was done by our former regional chair in cooperation with Michael Fenn. We know that the report has never seen the light of day. It is my strong sense and suspicion that the report recommends a restructuring of our local government, but I don't know that because, again, the parties who prepared the report are bound by a non-disclosure agreement. The bottom line, I'll just come back to this. We are getting exactly what we deserve. And frankly, I'm usually a fan of that being the case in life. Play clown games, get clown prizes. We tried some really well-meaning, intelligent, forward-thinking people in this community have for decades tried to get our community at large, and specifically our municipal governments, to see the light. That light being the two-tier municipal structure of governance is out of date. It's not helping us anymore. In fact, what might help us would be an amalgamation into one single tier of municipal government. But nobody listened. Well, they listened, I suppose. And then they got all protective of their current little slice of the political pie. And here we are. And now, because we didn't do anything, the provincial government's going to come in and it's going to do it for us. But it's not going to do a lot of things that we like. It's just going to do what it wants to do because municipalities are beholden to the province. What the province says, municipalities do. The province is the parent, the city or region is the child, and the parent's going to come in and the rules are about to change. And we're just going to have to accept it. And we can hum and wee-haw all we want, but this is our own damn fault. I'm very frustrated by it all. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is that time of day that we open phone lines to you so that you have the opportunity to share your thoughts on the issues of the day or a brand new issue that you think we need to know about. Because if it's important to you, it's important to us. Phone lines open at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Quick reminder, Friday, as always, All Request Friday, where we play a little bit of the song that you want to hear. Theme this week is winter, because by Friday, in fact, before the end of the day tomorrow, it will look very much like winter out there, even though the calendar still says we've got several weeks to wait before winter arrives. But the theme for All Request Friday this week is winter, because we'll be in a winter wonderland of sorts by the time Friday is here. By the way, if you're wondering, already been taken. I tried to argue that's a Christmas song, but Norma said, define Christmas song, Farwell. It's kind of like trying to define a Christmas movie, isn't it? So we'll get some walking in a winter wonderland on All Request Friday as well. Speaking of that snow system, it sounds like, and I had checked in yesterday already with our good friends over at Environment Canada, specifically the friend that we like to affectionately refer to around here as Kitchener Cooney. Rob Coon has worked for many decades for Environment Canada, and I believe my father at one point taught Cooney. Anyway, Rob lives locally, works for Environment Canada, is always keeping me up to date on all things weather. And when I heard those first alerts yesterday, I sent Cooney a message and said, 30 to 50 centimeters. Are you kidding me? He said, I'm in meetings as we speak, or about to go into meetings, and we're looking at the track of this and trying to figure it out. Sounds like we're softening it somewhat to somewhere between 15 and 30 centimeters from Thursday to Saturday. So 5 to 10 centimeters a day. I think we can probably live with that. But in listening to the coverage from the 570 News Center today, my antennae went up when I heard about, stay tuned to this radio station for all of your closures and cancellations tomorrow. Folks, it's winter. It comes once a year. It lasts way too long. It's way too cold. But come on. We could, even 10 centimeters of snow. Let me tell you, when I was a kid, but let's just take a breath, okay? We can get around just fine. You know the weather's coming. Start making your plans right now. Oh, are you going to leave a little bit earlier? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? We can deal with the snow. Come on with your coming on. Let's not pull the chute too early. Oh, heaven forbid the precious little ones can't make it to school tomorrow. Hey, precious little ones, get ready to go to school tomorrow. We can handle this stuff. It's called winter. Happens every year. Back to the phones here on Talkback. Keith is with us. Good afternoon, Keith.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Not bad.
Good.
You think if they really get all that snow that you think our Ranger game will get canceled?
No. No, of course not. Keith, what are you trying to do to me here, huh?
No, I just thought I'd ask that question.
Yeah, you're just trying to push my buttons. Listen, I got my buttons get pushed enough just when I read the news every morning. Come on.
Yeah. Well, you know who you're talking to. And thanks for the birthday wish too, by the way.
That's what I'm here for.
You know who it is.
Yeah, exactly. I knew who it was. As soon as I saw your name, I knew who it was. You started talking about the Kitchener Rangers. I know who this is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think in all the years that you've been doing the radio, has it ever been canceled? That you can remember?
Oh my goodness, that's a yes. In fact, it has. We were on our way. I was still working with Mike Torquia. What a beauty! And we were on our way to a game in Erie.
Yeah.
And the weather was so nasty and getting nastier. And we got to the border, and Mike McKenzie, I think he was on the bus with us at the time. Anyway, he was working the phones trying to figure out what's happening, and regardless, we got the memo just after we got across the border that the game in Erie had been canceled. So we got off the interstate and turned around, but you should have seen downtown Buffalo at the time. So it turned out to be about was it 8 or 10? But anyway, many, many hours of a trip to drive down to the border at Buffalo and turn around and come home, never played a game. We were on the bus the entire time. That's how long it took in the weather. The funny part about that...
But it's never been one of our games. So.
Not that I can recall, no.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Because we're Canadians, eh?
Of course we are.
We're used to a bit of snow.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right,
Keith. Good to hear from you.
Show and I relaxing because I have to work tomorrow and the next day. So hopefully the weather will be good.
All right, Keith. Appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for tuning into the show. Get your relaxation in today and then get ready to shovel tomorrow. The funny thing about that crazy weather that canceled the game is Josh Brown, the reporter for the Waterloo Region Record, was ahead of us. We were on the bus traveling with the team, and he got out ahead. And, didn't have the best drive, but once he got past Buffalo, he said it cleared up. It was sunny. It was beautiful. He was sitting in the media room in Erie when he got word that the game was canceled. He was already there. It was a beautiful drive once you got past Buffalo. We just couldn't get past Buffalo. And there was another time, I remember now too, the same thing happened to Brownie, the poor guy. We canceled the game in Owen Sound. It was beautiful here, getting windy, but Steve Spott was still our coach then. And it was funny because we left the Odd and we were driving in a very strange direction. And I thought they're just killing time before they get out into the country area to get an answer from the league because the weather was worse up in Grey County. But Josh also made it through that day and said it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. But we called off that game before we even left Kitchener. That was a short road trip. I went back home and my beloved's like, what are you doing here? That was the end of that. Anyway. Let's go back to the phones. It's your time to talk back. Joe is with us. Good afternoon, Joe.
Good afternoon, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I just want to say, I heard that impaired driving went up, I think it was 250% this weekend. Is that right? Did you hear that as well?
I did hear that. Now, you have to just, keep the numbers in mind. A 250% increase. I believe there were 14 charges, so that probably means like there were, 5 or 6 the time before? But yes, anyway, 250% increase.
That's still quite a bit, Mike.
It's too much.
Especially coming around the holidays, too. There's a lot more kids out playing, especially if we're going to get snow this weekend. Kids playing in the snow or whatever, building their snowmen, sort of having a good time. It's scary that this many people are sort of still doing this. There's so many warnings, so many advertisements saying, when are people going to learn that it's not allowed and it's got to stop, Mike?
It's a great question, Joe, and I appreciate the call and the concern about it. It's funny, I saw Staff Sergeant Scott Griffiths, who heads up our traffic services unit with regional police, on the evening news yesterday, and one of these crashes, which involved a tractor trailer, was in the morning, and the driver was charged with impaired. Could have been drugs. I don't know if it was alcohol or drugs, but impaired is impaired. And Staff Griffiths used that as a reason to reinforce the message. This isn't just a Friday night after the bars let out sort of problem anymore. This is a round-the-clock concern, and just let that sink in. This particular collision, and I believe the tractor-trailer was involved in the collision on its own, losing control, flipping over, whatever, but just let it sink in that somebody was at the wheel of a tractor-trailer, and they were under the influence to the point that they were legally impaired. That sends a shiver down my spine. I don't know about yours. But to Joe's point, absolutely, positively, zero. And I do mean zero tolerance for that. I just don't understand it. And speaking of that increase in the number of impaired driving charges laid, have you heard the little conspiracy theory that exists? I mean, listen, the key to a good conspiracy theory is not really having the hard data to disprove it. I mean, I can see why somebody would make this case, but really the conspiracy theory around budget time for regional police and stories like a 250% increase in impaired driving. If you haven't heard it, I'll share it with you coming up, and your calls are always welcome on Talkback. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thanks to Roy for the email to Mike at 570news.com. There was a game in Kitchener postponed a few years ago when the Sarnia Sting couldn't make it to town because of the 402 being closed due to bad snow squalls. Good memory, Roy. Thanks for the reminder on that. I was thinking more of games that we in this city canceled because the weather was so bad here, for example. There was one time last year where the weather was just awful and getting worse. And Erie was in town, and we were playing, and the weather outside was just wicked. And I don't think they got back home till 4 o'clock the next morning, if I recall my conversations with their broadcast teams. Anyway, obviously winter happens, and you bring up the 402. It's like a whole other world on the 402, isn't it? You can be cruising along the 401, and we know it gets dicier west of here. Between here and Toronto, it's a little bit different because of all of the buildings and not as much open space, but you start going west and look out. But the 402, it's like a whole new world. Like, I've been on trips down to Sarnia before where, you know, it's kind of wintry along the 401, and then you hit that 402, and it is a completely different animal. Reminds me of the time we were in Owen Sound. And there was a terrible snowstorm, and we battled through it. But much like that story I was just sharing from Kitchener, the weather outside was getting worse as we were inside playing the game. Only about 500 people showed up that night in Owen Sound, right? These are some folks that know a thing or two about snow, and only a few hundred made it to the game. And after the game, all the roads were closed. Like, Owen Sound got snowed in, and we were starting to scramble to find hotel rooms, motel rooms, any kind of accommodation. And then all of a sudden, mysteriously, the road closed sign on one of the roads, the barrier was gone. And as soon as we saw that, Jay McKee was still our coach. He said, "Let's go. We're going home." We had to turn back to the arena to pick up the staff that was still there. We hadn't yet dropped off any players at motels or hotels. We've never loaded a bus so fast and started going home. And I'll tell you what, Mikey the Moose Reeves, our bus driver for the Kitchener Rangers, I've said this a lot. He's a fun guy. He's a real character. And we love to have a good time with him. And there's a lot of good-natured teasing that goes back and forth. But this man can drive a bus. He really can. And did we have a drive home that night. But he got us here all safe and sound. And I've since referred to it as the 6-hour bus trip home from Owen Sound. That is a 2-hour trip, no matter which way you slice it. You can pick whichever way you want to go from here to Owen Sound. It'll take you 2 hours. And that night it took 6 just to get home because of that crazy weather and all of the time it took us to get onto the road that suddenly mysteriously reopened. Just want to go back to what I mentioned, and I'm coming right back to the phones at 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Maybe you want to share a thought on this. I alluded to the conspiracy theory, I think it's fair to call it that, just before that news update with Matt Hutchison, surrounding police and when it's budget season. And there are some who believe, and I've heard this for a number of years from a number of different people, but when it's time to deliberate on the police budget, you will hear more news stories about policing activities, because the theory goes, and again, I call it a bit of a conspiracy theory, but the theory goes that police put out more information about the things that they're doing so they remain top of mind. They're showing that things are getting done, that their efforts are paying off, that they're out there working, so to speak, during budget season, so that it's easier to swallow the bitter pill that is the increase to the police budget. I don't put a whole lot of stock in that idea. It goes back to what Joe called about before, that 250% increase in impaired driving charges compared to the previous 3-day weekend or 3-day blitz. So there were 4 in the previous 3-day blitz, and just this past weekend there were 14. So we went from 4 to 14, 250% increase. And that story comes out as we're in the midst of budget deliberations. Like I said, I don't put a whole lot of stock in that. And I'm not trying to kiss any police butt here, okay? I've got no reason to. I don't get special treatment. I don't get let go from speeding tickets. I just don't get speeding tickets. And I've been very lucky in this life to not have interactions with police. But I say this because I happen to see and feel a tangible benefit from a service that gets called for everything. Just think about that. How many times, and the stats bear that out, how many times, the number of times that police get phoned, right? For whatever, you're having a dispute with your neighbor, and then there are all of the more serious things. And I get the people that say, because I brought this up when the conspiracy theory was shared with me recently, and I said, listen, we've just had a drive-by shooting in Waterloo, a house shot at in Cambridge, all of these different things going on, armed robbers at a mall in Cambridge, and the person telling me, yeah, well, police just put out this information because it's budget time. I'm like, wait, no, these things happen. Well, they're not stopping the crime. Who's going to investigate the crimes? This, to me, is a very tangible, I can feel the service. Now, in fairness, you know me and budgets, I wish these things stayed at inflation. I really do. And police are above 6% with their ask this year. I don't love that, but I do see, and this could be right or wrong, the tangible nature of the service provided. So I don't quibble about the police budget because it is a service that we rely on every single day. It is. And that's just my take. Again, I'm not trying to kiss anybody's butt or curry any favor, but that's just my impression of it. And for those that seem to think there's more police news just because it's budget time, I'd be like, give the cops a break, would you? They're out there working pretty hard. My take. Simple as that. Back to the phones here on Talkback. Greg, good afternoon.
Egg 38 here.
Farwell's Force official member number. Good afternoon, my friend.
Hey. Okay, well, you just basically took the sort of words. Like, I agree with what you say because I've never really heard this conspiracy idea, but at the same time, I don't think they need a theory because look at the reality. Yeah. Like,
exactly.
Okay, nightly, hold up this house invasion, this, stabbing this, whatever. Like, no, like the news is taking care of that. They don't have to, increase stories because, unfortunately, the reality's, got loads of stories on an all too frequent basis. So, yeah, no, I would say just, give them all the money they need, but that's just me. I'm not the budget guy and all that. So that was just one thing. And then secondly, about the 250% thing, it just reminded me of a story at my last job. I had to go to Listowel every 2 weeks. And the one time, I think it was the middle of winter, too, wasn't even in good weather. I pulled in the town about 8 a.m., and there's an OPP, like right near Conway Furniture. And then all of a sudden, okay, he gets out, and then another one comes up. I thought, oh, okay, are they about to close the road or something like this? So I just stopped, waited, and then he comes up to my window. I said, yeah, good morning. He goes, yeah, morning. Have you been drinking? I said, at 8 in the morning. So it's like, that was a ride program they were starting to set up at that point. And I've never seen one at that time of day, but apparently, yeah, they do, or maybe some areas are known for it. But I thought they were, like I say, going to close the road. And he asked me if I'd been drinking 8 in the morning on a Tuesday. So I guess something must have caused them to, have some kind of reason to go after somebody at that point. But that was it.
All right, Greg, good to hear from you today. Thanks for the call.
All right.
Stay safe out there. I know Greg drives around for a living, so always want you to be careful out there. And speaking of Listowel, It's our friend Francis with us here on Talkback. Hello, Francis.
Well, God bless. It's number 36. We're in a row.
Farwell's Force member number 36. Good day.
Now, talking about road closures and stuff, like, come on with it, come on. Coming from a village where we had up and down a hill both ways to go to school, back and forth, and us farm boys, we'd make sure we got to school because it would be a holiday for us, and we didn't. And the people in town couldn't make it because it was too much snow for them to walk on. Isn't that terrible?
It is terrible, Francis. We can get through this stuff, can't we?
Yeah, we sure can.
We sure can.
It's like, come on with it, come on. God bless.
Thanks, Francis. You too. Come on with your coming on. We're going to make it to school tomorrow, right? I don't know. Maybe this guy has the answer. It's our old friend, Kitchener Cooney. Did you hear me call your name before, Rob?
Oh, hi, Mike. I certainly did. I've been in meetings all morning, and there's one that's sort of breaking because we're updating how we issue the colors on our alert maps. So if you take a look at the Environment Canada alert maps effective this hour, you will see new colors, yellow, orange, or red. It's basically how severe the impact in the warning is. But that's another topic. I did hear you, and then I thought I better call in to give you, help you out, give you some info about the upcoming lake effect snow.
I'm all ears because I'm fascinated by this stuff because I mentioned how I texted you the other day when I heard, it was just yesterday, I guess, 30 to 50 centimeters. And you're like, look, the track isn't certain yet, but the work that you're all doing to figure out what this system is going to do.
It's a very busy day in the operations area for the Ontario Storm Prediction Center today. Because there's alerts over a large part of the province, and including here. And I just wanted to mention this kind of a pattern that with the snow squalls developing, I expect we will be seeing snow squalls tomorrow, brief ones, and tomorrow night and possibly into Friday. But the snowfall amounts, we're on the edge of the snow belt here. So Kitchener, Waterloo, in this kind of a pattern with the strong winds, it's going to be hard to measure, but somewhere between 5 and 15 centimeters, I think, is fair game. With just west of Kitchener, so that would be Wilmot and Wellesley townships, those folks could get 15 to 30 if something can lock in for a few hours. And it's not clear yet that the snow squalls in this area are going to lock in. All the computer models I've been seeing are showing them moving around or drifting around. So you get this burst of heavy snow. It looks like a blizzard for a few minutes. Then it goes away. Then it comes back. And that will limit the actual snowfall amounts. But that being said, once the temperature gets down to near freezing tomorrow, it's going to be very windy. Any snow that has fallen will become powdery and light, and it will not take much to get this stuff to get whipped up, and you get blowing and drifting snows, and especially in exposed areas in the country, whiteout conditions are certainly on the table for tomorrow starting. So it's going to be a busy day, and I do think we will have enough snow in Kitchener-Waterloo by the end of the day tomorrow. At least the grass will be white, and the driving conditions on the streets will become, it'll be winter driving conditions. And if something does lock in for a couple hours, that's how you can get your 2 to 5 to 10 centimeters over a very short time period. And if that does happen, of course, the winter driving conditions will suddenly become dangerous. It's like we've had snow before this season, but this is the first one where it may actually wind up really sticking to the roads for any untreated roads for any amount of time, especially tomorrow night.
When it gets into Friday and Saturday, Rob, because we've been looking at this as sort of a multi-day event, is the follow-up on Friday and Saturday going to be all that new snow being whipped around by continued strong winds, or do we have more snowmakers in there?
That's a very good question. Friday looks to be a windy day, but not quite as windy as tomorrow. So I think there will be some blowing and drifting snow Friday, but it's going to be confined to a snow squall if it comes in. And I'm also, from what I'm seeing, I think the heavier amounts on Friday are going to be west and just southwest of Kitchener-Waterloo. It's looking like, to me, in my opinion, Oxford County, Huron, Perth, maybe getting down towards Middlesex County. Something might try and lock in there tomorrow, but it's not clear, whereas Kitchener-Waterloo will be probably more flurries. And if you get a brief snow squall, you get the strong winds. But in between the snow squalls, it'll just be like a typical windy day, but not quite as windy as tomorrow. So I don't think the blowing snow in this area Friday will be as big as an issue as tomorrow. But still, we'll have to. It's Mother Nature can do some weird things and throw things into the pot. And that being said, your question about Saturday. The winds are diminishing, so the lake effect is going to turn itself down, and I don't think Saturday, at least into the daytime hours, the winds will drop off. So blowing snow and drifting snow should stop, and I think the flurries will ease off as well as the winds drop. I don't think they'll go away completely, but I don't think there'll be much in the way of snow amounts in Kitchener, at least during the day Saturday. And beyond Saturday, we're looking at a system that might be a general snowfall Saturday night into Sunday, but that's still the jury's out on that.
Anybody that's on your email list, Rob, knows that in the nice weather, we get car wash reports and days over 30 degrees. And in the less nice weather, we get backyard rink reports and the occasional odds of a snow day for the school kids. Are you venturing out to give odds on that for tomorrow?
At this point, we don't officially do that, but I have unofficially said to a few folks that have been asked the question, what's the chance of school buses being canceled? This is just my opinion, nobody else's. I think it's about 50%, and I don't know if the school boards here can cancel rural buses only, but I think those are the ones that might be affected. Now, that being said, if Mother Nature decides to throw a snow squall over us first thing tomorrow morning and lock it in, then those folks will make the decision based on that. But they'll be using the latest information to make that decision tomorrow morning. This was what I understand.
Appreciate you phoning in and letting us know what's coming, Rob. Thanks very much.
Well, it's winter part 3. Enjoy. It's about the right time of the year for winter weather to start settling in. So we've had this before, and we'll see what we get as the season progresses. I think it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, enjoy, you say. You know how much I enjoy this weather, Cooney.
I know, and I have a snow shovel in my trunk. Do you?
No, I should put one in there, though, huh?
I always carry one because I've used it over the years, and we're one of our call to action statements. If you follow us on X, it's got that statement in there. Have a shovel in your trunk.
You know what? I'll put one in later today. Thanks, Rob.
You're very welcome. Nice talking with you, Mike.
You as well, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's our good friend Rob Kuhn from Environment Canada, a.k.a. Kitchener Cooney. It's a comment, and I would have to agree with that. My opinion only. 50-50 on cancellations tomorrow? Probably. If there are, you're going to hear them right here on 570 News Radio as Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, also here on Rogers TV. It is the hour for you to talk back, and back to the phones we go for Rudy, Farwell's Force member number 234. Hey, Rudy.
Hey, Mike. It's a great day today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I always make it to work no matter what the weather is, and I'm going down 24 at 3 in the morning. But the thing is, what affects us tomorrow might be the cattle trucks. The cattle mostly come from north of Elmira, Mount Forest, and even further. So it might affect that. But those cattle truck drivers, they're pretty relentless, and they go through a lot. Not much can stop those guys, but yeah, sometimes some of the trucks get canceled, and we might not have all the cattle we want to have.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, Rudy. Stay safe out there. It's like we do in this business. We always talk about making our way to work so we can tell you to not go to work. But there's a storm a-coming, and she's going to be a bit of a doozy. Mary, you get the last word on Talkback today.
Oh, my goodness.
Farwell's Force member number 1.
Yes. Can I sell it? Like, can I make money on it?
It's totally up to you. It's your number. But I got less than 60 seconds.
Okay. What I want to comment on is the rise in drunk driving.
Yep.
There is a rise in all kinds of criminal deals, and you can't expect to bring all these people into our area like this is a bit of a false thing. You have to look at how many people you brought into the area.
You know what, Mary? I hear where you're coming from, right? More people, more problems. I've been saying that for a long time. And what we have to watch out for then is the per capita increase, right? The number of incidents per 1,000 or 100,000 people. I get you. Bottom line is it's pretty busy out there if you are in the law enforcement area. I got to run, stay on time, get you to Rob Snow, appropriately named. For now, you know, taking you through until 3 this afternoon, then all news afternoons on the way. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9, and I invite you to join me then. My name's Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.